Okay, now try.
Try what?
I didn't hit the go live button. Sorry.
Yeah. Need to have the go live button.
Here you go. You can have that.
Are we in just regular or are we in StreamYards?
StreamYards.
Okay.
I would have had to redo everything.
All right. Are we live, people?
Yes. I see us now.
Hey, I have audio.
Hi, Melissa. Hi, AK lady. John. Last trace.
All right. Cool. I thought we were live and we weren't live.
Yeah, we were talking to you, but I didn't hit the live button, so you didn't hear us. Sorry.
It's been a minute. That's what happens when you have, several months gap in your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I know how we're doing on viewer count.
49.
49.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, so what's up, everybody? I'll let Mrs. Justice say hi to some names.
All right.
For a minute.
Back up. Oh. Liberty Freak is in the house.
Liberty Freak, what's up, buddy?
Heather Holt, hi. John DeNicola. David, Dorothy, Last Trace. Yarno. Oh, see, I really struggle reading some names. I'm sorry if I mess somebody up. Wrist Disabled Rider.
What's up, man?
What's up, people? There's now Fresno. I should probably turn on live chat instead of this other thing. Sorry, guys, if I skip people. There's a lot of them. 62.
Okay.
And climbing.
All right. So we haven't done anything on the channel for a few months. And a big part of that is because we've been trying to relocate away from crazy North Carolina because of all the insane criminal activities of their criminal justice system. Notice that the first adjective in the justice system is criminal. So we have relocated away from North Carolina, and we're in the Gulf Coast area, Central Time Zone. And part of that relocation has been to reestablish my care with the VA medical system. And so I fell into the Gulf Coast VA medical system, and they're based out of Biloxi. So with that, my primary things that I need to follow up with are, blind rehab, neurology for the brain damage, migraines, and the neurological damage with my wrists from being attacked in the health department, and then orthopedics and trying to get some mental health help. So those are the four things really was trying to get set up with the VA. And the VA is this weird monster, right? They require you go to a primary care provider and do an appointment with the primary care, and then they are like this gatekeeper for all the specialty clinics and specialty care. Well, I don't need primary care for anything, right? I just had those 4 specialty clinics I need to talk to. I've already been working with them for years, and so it should just be like a transfer from the VA in North Carolina down to the VA in Biloxi. Right? Should be just seamless transition. Well, that hasn't been the case. So months back, probably 4 months now, I don't know, maybe more, did this transition or started this transition, and the VA down here in the Gulf Coast system, I just tried calling different ones to say, hey, who can I get in with first to get a primary care appointment? Because I don't care who it's with or where it is, as long as I get with them and tell them I need these 4 clinics, put in the referrals for these 4 clinics, right? Because that's their silly gatekeeper. So we tried that. They said you had to come in person to do primary care appointments, especially if it's your first time with them. I said, well, I've been with the VA for years, so it's just a transfer of care. I've already established with these specialty clinics. I just need to, continue care. Like ortho has like knee brace for me sitting somewhere that I don't have, and neurology has stuff they've been working on for the wrist damage because of the kidnapping in the health department and ongoing migraines and brain damage and memory loss, all this stuff. And And blind rehab is the only one that did a transfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
From North Carolina, the blind rehab and the VIST coordinator, they did the handoff to the ones down here. And blind rehab is like basically the only thing in the VA that has been beneficial to me, like worthwhile. And the other clinics, like they didn't do a handoff, and so I have to jump through this gatekeeper of primary care. So I had the earliest appointment they had out was like 6 or 8 weeks out. Eventually, I convinced them to allow me to do it via video appointment because they have a mask restriction. You have to wear a mask, and they wouldn't allow me to wear one of those face shields, because I can't tolerate a mask for very long without it increasing my head pain. I've tried it in the past, and there's even videos on the channel of me trying it, and then I pay the price for it like later. So that's what you guys don't see is like off-camera stuff, and you get a little glimpse into the lives of the people doing videos while they're on camera or while they're holding a camera, but not what happens before or after. So that appointment, that first appointment, the provider was late, didn't show up, right? And I had other things scheduled, and so I gave him the 15-minute rule. I stayed in the virtual appointment for 15 minutes and then left. And she calls me back like 20 minutes later. And she's like, hey, I'm sorry I was late. I was doing whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I've got other things scheduled. I don't have time for this. Like, did you review my medical chart so that you're prepared for this appointment? And she said, no. I'm like, okay, well, that was part of what I asked you guys to do, is that you review my chart because I have memory damage, and you know what I need. And so we can just knock it out. So it's been a fight to get primary care for months. Eventually, we have a referral now to do primary care out in the community in the private sector. So just the basic thing, like primary care, is now, they can't even do that. It's going out in the community. But I do have referrals in for the other specialty clinics. I've already worked with blind rehab and getting that ball rolling. The problem is like trying to talk to anybody with the VA system. They just have zero, from what we've found, zero training in Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So it's a mouthful, but it's the predecessor of the ADA. The Americans with Disabilities Act was built upon the foundation, the bone structure of Section 504. And Section 504 is still a federal law. So in effect, the ADA didn't repeal it or didn't replace it. It just built upon it, right? And this is something that I've been trying to get activists to pay attention to, and you can incorporate it into more of your checkups on government facilities, because if they receive federal funding, then they fall under Section 504. If it's a federal entity, they are not subject to the ADA, they are subject to Section 504. So knowing the ADA is great, but you also need to know Section 504. One of the things that Section 504 requires is that has to be a notice, like a posting of the disability discrimination process, like how to request accommodations, how to file and process complaints based on discrimination. It's supposed to list who the designated employees are and how to contact them, and the exact process that you have to go through to make the request and to file a complaint. And that's every facility that has 15 employees or more, whether it's private sector or public sector, right, that falls under that requirement. Now, under Section 504, it's any entity that receives federal funding that has 15 employees or more, right? So basically, any city, any town, any county, any state level entity, any facility, right, that falls in those categories in the public sector, and then federal level, even, because it's Section 504 is also federal. So the VA system, right, VA facilities, post offices, if they have 15 employees or more, right? Some are small, some post offices don't have 15. Social Security departments, right? The FBI, all these other agencies, right? The TSA, it's supposed to have a notice. It's supposed to be a posting somewhere that informs the public and employees the process that you're to follow with making requests for accommodation because of disability, and to make complaints to follow up if there's an issue with discrimination. Now, I would say majority of these facilities are breaking the law just by not having that posted, right? Some of them may have it posted on a website, but not everybody has a computer or access to the internet to get it. So that doesn't meet that criteria. It has to be posted so that anybody can have access. If it's simply just posted in a lobby, well, then the visually impaired don't have access to it unless somebody provides, like the entity provides an interpreter for the visually impaired to read what's in their billboards and bulletin boards, right? Or they provide it online in an accessible format. And so we run into this problem a lot. And then with that, you have websites have to be accessible to the visually impaired so that you can navigate the websites. And a lot of websites are not. They're not coded that way. I've been reviewing a lot of case law on Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which deals with public sectors. And a lot of the lawsuits that people bring are based on websites not being accessible for the visually impaired. It's an easy one for people to win, and they do it all the time. As of this moment, we have not filed any lawsuits with anybody, but we are working on several lawsuits. So some for North Carolina, some for other things. But the focus of this video is primarily the VA. And so we wanted to highlight to you guys how the VA, specifically the medical system, the VA medical system, because the VA has other parts. Like there's a vocational rehab part. There's the monetary benefits side, the admin side of things for the VA, but the medical side is the part we want to highlight in this video. And it's kind of sad. It's really sad, but it's really ironic because if we go to the va.gov, if you want to go there on the computer.
I will, just a second. I'm commenting something.
Okay. She's going to pull up va.gov and she's going to, I'll have her, I believe it's at the bottom of the website, at least when I'm scrolling through it, it's one of the last things. We're just going to simply go to va.gov and it may not be in the bottom, but I think it is. If not, it's going to be in the main menu section, but there's going to be an option for disability. That's what you're going to try to find.
I'm going to share my screen, guys.
So what is the VA? So it's the Veterans Administration, right? It's a federal entity, right? It's a department of Veterans Affairs. It's a department of the federal government. And it deals with veterans of the U.S. military. Okay. For the medical side, what's that?
Talking about disability?
Yes. So for the medical side, it's VA disability. Now, what's it say?
Well, I've got VA disability compensation.
Okay.
VA disability compensation pay offers a monthly tax-free payment to veterans who got sick or injured while serving in the military.
Okay, pause. That's talking about getting paid because you have a VA disability, right? That's a disability that is related to injuries or illnesses or something that the service member received while in the service, in the military service. Okay, what's next?
You may qualify for VA disability.
No.
Like the
next section, yeah.
On this page, let's see. Get VA disability compensation, pay.
Okay.
Eligibility, how to file a claim. Manage your veteran disability benefits.
Okay.
And then subsections. More information and resources.
Okay.
Subsections. Other VA benefits and services. Subsections.
Okay. What's in that?
Disability housing grants for veterans. Fiduciary services. VA nursing homes, assisted living, and home health care. Veteran readiness and employment. VR and E.
All right, so there's should be a medical something or other.
Medical something or other.
On the disability link. So the first part is you have to put in a claim with the VA saying, hey, I have these disabilities, right? It's literally called disability. It's your disability claim. And then the VA has a review process and it takes a while. It used to take ages. They've added more staff and kind of streamline the process, but it still takes like 18 months usually for people to get their claim approved. So, but they literally call it their disability claim, right? And you have a disability rating. Once you get approved through, you say that I have all these things, X, Y, and Z, that I had happen to me while in the military service, then you get a disability rating and it's a percentage, right? And then from there, they do some crazy paradoxical Zeno math, like,
Crazy
And
math.
if you're a mathematician, you may appreciate the reference, but
It's crazy.
basically it's insane how they do their mathematical calculations. But it's still called your disability rating. So in order to get treatment at the VA medical centers, you have to be in the system of having a disability rating. Your rating could be 0%, right? So you can still receive medical care, but you have a disability rating of 0%. That just means that they recognize it, but it's not impacting your life enough. Their rating system is all crazy. But you can also, it has to be annotated that something happened to you while in service, right? This disability. There's a few exceptions, like for instance, blind rehab, low vision services. Like if most of the veterans that receive that receive it because of old age. Essentially, they lost their vision due to old age, and it wasn't necessarily service related, right? And they still qualify for blind rehab and low vision services. So there's very few exceptions to it, but for the most part, it's disability related. And you can even argue that vision loss due to old age is still vision loss. It's still disability. That isn't service related. So the common thread here is disability, right? So an entity, the VA medical system, where this whole clientele is veterans with disabilities, hypothetically, should know how to process requests for accommodations because of disabilities and how to process complaints because of discrimination based on disability. What you got?
SF Giants fan Mike just gave us $10.
Hey, thank you, SF Giants fan.
Appreciate it.
And hi, Barbara.
Yeah, so that's the premise, right? The VA medical system that deals solely with veterans with disabilities, right? The medical side, you think would know. Like it's basically a no-brainer, maybe just an assumption that everybody's like, oh yeah, of course they know how to deal with disability requests for accommodation and disability complaints. Well, that's not been the case, at least what we've experienced and what we've uncovered. So
I think the question would be, is it reasonable to believe that an institution who works almost solely, like primarily with disabled people, would be able to handle disability requests and modifications?
Right.
And I think that's reasonable to expect that.
Right. So for instance, somebody who's visually impaired, if I want to take notes, right? If the setting is an audio setting, just strictly audio, meaning a phone call, like if I call into the VA to schedule an appointment, or if it's a phone appointment and I want to take notes during my phone call or my appointment, then how do you take audio notes with audio recording, right? If it's in person or if it's a video, then I can take video notes and I get access to that visual information that I'm missing out because I can have somebody interpret it for me later. Or you guys have been helpful with me at times when I've gone live, and you've been my visual interpreters live on the street, helping me find doors and reading signs and tell me when there's a threat behind me or whatever, right? You guys have been helpful in that capacity as my visual interpreters live through my phone. So give me access to visual information real time. So the experience that we've had so far, and is it in the description?
The link?
All the different contact info?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's contact info in the description of this video. And we're going to go ahead and give a call to, is it Bryan Matthews, is the director of the Biloxi VA Medical Center. And his executive assistant or secretary, I don't know what the nomenclature is, but her name is Sarah Goodwin. And her email's in the description. And we've called her a few times, and she gets very testy and talks over me and raises her voice and hangs up on me. And she's confirmed that she doesn't know who their Section 504 coordinator is. She actually said this last time that they don't have one, that the Biloxi VA Medical Center does not have a person designated as their Section 504 coordinator. And we've talked to Michael Simmons, who's the chief patient advocate for the Biloxi, for the Gulf Coast VA medical system. We've spoken to the Equal Opportunities Department, Priscilla Walker, and she didn't know what that was or anything about it. So we've talked to all these different departments and people running these departments, and they don't even know what the position is, much less who's in it. And they've confirmed that they don't have anybody assigned to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mrs. Justice found a handbook that the VA published in January 2020 that the VA, obviously, they did an internal audit and recognized that the VA is grossly not compliant with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So they published this handbook to distribute to all the VA, to all VA facilities, to all VA staff. And that was in January 2020. And it was compliance on Section 504, right? So they gave them a year from the publication of that date, January, I think 23rd, 2020 to January of 2021. So we're almost a year after, right? We're in October, mid-October. So they've had it for a year. They should have been in compliance. Well, they should have been in compliance for decades, because this is, from 1973. But the VA did an internal audit and found, we're in gross non-compliance. We need to issue this handbook and make sure everybody's trained and knows that each facility is supposed to have a primary Section 504 coordinator and a secondary Section 504 coordinator, and we need to publish this information so the disabled veterans and the employees of the facilities know how to process requests based on disability and complaints based on disability discrimination, right? Well, they haven't done any of this as far as we can tell. They haven't published or put a notice anywhere of this process and who those employees are. And they have told us straight up multiple times on the phone that they don't know who they are. We tried contacting Vernon Stuart, who's the public affairs officer for the Gulf Coast VA Medical Center. And he said he was going to give me that information. And that was over a week ago. And he hasn't called me back. He hasn't emailed me back. I call him basically every day and ask for an update. And hey, where is this? I put in a Freedom of Information Act request through Melanie Lane. She's the privacy and the FOIA officer. And since 10 separate FOIA requests, and she hasn't said where she's at in processing those or investigating them or anything, right? Which is against FOIA. It's a violation of the FOIA. So this is where we're at, and we're going to do some phone calls and demonstrate for you guys live that they don't know, they're in gross violation, and two, the disdain that they have just for simply trying to find this information out for disabled veterans to make the request through the appropriate channels and file the complaints through the appropriate channels. So let's go ahead and give Sarah a call.
Yours?
Either way.
I don't have the number on
You don't
mine.
have it?
Well, I don't know where it is.
Push. I sent it to you, crazy person.
Well,
You had me talking this whole time.
Huh?
Did you have me talking this whole time? Well, I guess you can fill in while I get this.
All right.
I thought you were ready.
no, dude. I pulled up the handbook. I can show them that
Okay.
if you want.
Sure.
Will you look that up?
I'm trying to find this.
All right, you guys go check this out though, because handbook. Yeah, this is the VA handbook. It was January 23rd, 2020. Compliance procedures implementing Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Non-discrimination based on disability in federally conducted programs or activities. And this is reasons for issue, provides guidance on the Department of Veterans Affairs implementation of policy and procedures pertaining to Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, and all this.
All right, I got it.
You got it? This thing's pretty cool, though. Do.
Oh, the line is busy. Wonder why that is.
I don't know. Did I put that one on there?
I don't know.
I don't think I did, so you could use it. You're kidding if I can find it. They can find it. Blind. There's even a whole section on providing aid to blind people.
Okay. So we're not getting anywhere there. Let's try. Can you tell me Vernon Stewart's?
Sure. Vernon. That's the PAO
Yeah.
phone number?
Yep.
228-523.
Hold on. This one's not.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my God. Here. You do it.
28523.
I did one saved.
5,000. And then I gotta put a.
You have to call that first.
Okay. And then wait.
Yeah. Put it on speaker.
Speaker. All right.
Welcome to the
And then
Biloxi
put in the
VA
extension.
Medical. If you are having a medical or
35945.
mental health emergency, hang up and
35945.
dial 911.
Do I have to put
If you
pound or
are
anything?
No.
having press.
One moment, please.
All right. So this should be Vernon Stewart is the public affairs officer.
Hear about your Hello, you've reached Vernon Stewart, Chief of Community and Public Affairs for the Gulf Coast Veterans Healthcare System. I'm unable to answer the phone at this time, so please leave a message and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Thank you.
Hey, Vernon. It's Mike Nelson again. Just calling to check on whether or not you could give me that information for the contact info for your Section 504 coordinators for the Gulf Coast VA Medical Center. If you can give me a call back, that'd be great, or you can shoot me an email. All right, thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm hanging.
Okay, I'm gonna try Sarah again, or Bryan Matthews. Just go back; should be in the call list.
Bryan Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So Bryan Matthews is the director, and Sarah Goodwin is his secretary or executive assistant or whatever they call him. It's ringing.
Good afternoon, Executive Office. This is Sarah.
Hey, Sarah. I'm calling to try to talk to somebody about Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973.
Sir, I already discussed that with you earlier. It's a national policy. We don't have anyone on campus.
Okay, so you don't have a designated employee. You said earlier you can transfer me to the patient advocacy department. Will you do that, please?
Exactly, but you won't give me your information so I can do a warm handoff.
Okay, so you're requiring that I provide my identification and things in order to do a handoff?
Well, it would be nice for the person that I'm giving the phone call to
Right.
have a nice handoff.
And I told you can just tell them that it's a disabled veteran calling about concerns for Section 504 compliance, and that's not okay?
I can see. I mean, if you give me your name, I can see if I can help you. If I have your information, and I can look to see who you discussed stuff with in the past. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to talk to. You said you couldn't help me. That you could pass me on to the patient advocacy.
And that's what I'm going to do. Just a second. I'm going to put you on hold.
Okay, but before you refused to do that, and she puts me on hold. So she's actually this time not yelling at me. Last time she yelled at me and hung up on me a couple times. And she's requiring my name, last four, my social, phone number, all this stuff. She said she had to have it for a warm handover. And
Sir, what clinic are you seen at?
why does that matter?
Because it matters what patient advocate I will be transferring.
Oh,
to
just
you.
transfer me to Michael Simmons.
What clinic are you seen at, sir?
Can you just give me the supervisor for the patient advocacy? It's Michael Simmons, right, for the VA
Yeah, he
Gulf
didn't
Coast
answer.
system?
So he didn't answer, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay. Well, then anyone, you just pick one.
Well, which clinic are you seen at, sir?
Currently none of them. That's one of the problems because I'm having issues getting in the door because of discrimination. So just you can just pick any patient advocacy.
So are you enrolled here at our facility?
And through the Gulf Coast VA system?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then why are you having trouble getting into our facility? They should be. You're not coming. You're not scheduled for any appointments, or you don't have a PCM.
Well, there's a whole debacle about getting a PCM because they kept pushing it out like 6 or 8 weeks, and they said I had to wear a face mask, and I asked if I could wear a face shield because I have a medical condition that prevents me from wearing a face mask, and said there's no exemptions to the face mask policy. So eventually they did a video appointment, but then the provider didn't show up, and so it's just been this whole debacle.
Okay, what was the provider you saw?
I didn't. The provider didn't show up.
I know, but who are you supposed to see?
Why is that?
Well, I'm trying to help you. I mean, if you let me help you, I can help you.
But,
did you need to get another appointment?
So the issue is with discrimination. Like I have appointments set up. I already worked through that, like, fighting tooth and nail to get an appointment.
What do you feel discriminated about?
Because I'm prevented from going in person to have my appointment.
Why are you prevented from going in person to your appointment?
That's a good question. That's something we need to resolve. I don't know.
What did they tell you? Why did they say you couldn't come?
They said there's no exemptions to the mask policy, but then one of the
There is not. That's
What-
a federal mandate. There is no exemption.
Well, that's not true. There are exemptions, and one of the patient advocates even admitted that they make exemptions for the employees. So if exemptions are made for the employees, they need to make exemptions to the disabled veterans as well.
No, sir. There's no exemption to that. That's mandated. Federal mandate.
Federal mandate
Everyone has to
from
wear-
what office?
The VA.
Right. So it's a
VA
VA
mandate.
It's a VA mandate.
Yeah.
Can you send me a copy of that?
What is your email address?
It's insightisfree@gmail.com.
What is it?
Insight.
How do you spell it? Can you spell it out for me?
INSIGHT. Insight, like inner knowledge, not like outer sight.
Uh-huh.
Is like
Okay.
the verb to be, and free, like not a slave of the system.
Okay. So your main issue is you want to come in for an appointment and you have to wear a mask.
No, that's not the main issue. That's just an issue. Like, but again, I don't know why I'm telling you. It doesn't sound like you've had any training on Section 504.
Okay. And let me see if I can get a patient advocate on the line for you. Okay.
Okay.
myhealth.ca.gov and register for a basic health today. Then upon your next visit, ask
Oh, I have. Brian Matthews is the director. I've asked to speak to him, but she said that he is out of the office this week.
Well, you've asked him. He's been in the office. She refuses to pass you over.
Right. Right.
If you ask her why she's being difficult, she's like, I'm not being difficult. I'm a veteran.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
a disabled
saying
veteran, too.
I'm not.
good news.
We-
VA
Discriminating.
we need-
applies the process for
Yeah,
medication
got it.
refills and
Yeah, yeah. She said
So
that.
the patient advocates must be helping other veterans. So can I get a good number to have them call you back?
Yeah. Which facility did you try?
I tried them all.
Wow, every one of them is busy. How many facilities are in the Gulf Coast system?
Well, I tried Biloxi. All of our patient advocates in Biloxi, and there's 4 of them, and they were all. No one answered. They were with patients, with veterans. So, if you give me your name and number, I can have them call you back.
What about the other ones in the VA Gulf Coast system?
Well, I don't. If you said you've been working with Michael Simmons, so I'm assuming you're mostly working here at the Biloxi VA. So they would be better to help you.
No, I've
Is
talked.
there anything else I can do for you?
Yeah, I've talked to some of the staff from the other facilities as well.
And who did you speak with?
I don't remember the name.
Okay. All right. Well, I kind of feel like we're going round and round, and I don't know your name and I don't know your number to have someone call you back. So
You have,
I thank you for calling, and you have a great
can
day,
you
sir.
can
Thank
you
for your service.
can you?
Oh,
There she
that's
goes.
So frustrating.
Yeah. All right, let's call her back. So she's requiring you to give up information, like
Not just your name. She wants your social.
Yeah. in order to
Calling
do assistance, right?
speaker.
pull up the federal ethics thing that I sent you? If you want. Federal Code of Ethics. Code of Conduct. And you can find that, you can do a search or find and page for courteous or professional or whatever. There's all kinds of violations.
Your party is not answering. Please try your call later. We're sorry, but your call will now be disconnected.
Even the machine's gonna hang up on.
Yeah.
Okay. Indy Tire Hunter says they have your caller ID, so they should have your number.
Yeah, except this one may be blocked.
Okay, you sent me that.
Message. Call. Relaying your call through 678-208-7469.
Oh, I know what that is.
Alert. Call +1 6782. Call +1
Oh,
6782.
let me make sure that phone number's in here.
But this one?
+1 6782.
Come on.
7469.
It's busy.
End call. Button. Outgoing call to Bryan Matthews. 2:26. Outgoing call to Bryan Matthews. 2:35 p.m. Call duration 0 seconds. Collapse. Select.
Never mind.
Call. Relaying your call through 678-208-7469. Leave your carrier.
She's so peppy.
Alert. Call +1 678-208. +1 678-208-7469. End call. Button. Outgoing call to Bryan Matthews. 2:35 p.m. Call duration 0 seconds. Collapse. Selected. Outgoing call to Bryan Matthews.
Lightning
2:35
said
p.m.
all
Call duration 0
politicians should be
seconds.
forced to use the VA for medical. Imagine the politicians in Washington having to go through this.
Select.
Right?
Seriously.
678-208-7469. Leave your carrier.
Barbara, we are busy dismissing other callers.
Yeah.
Alert. Call +1 678.
Sorry, I moved that far away.
Give her another try.
+1 678-208-7469.
All right.
End call. Button.
Let me
Outgoing call to Bryan Matthews.
try.
2:35 p.m. Call duration. Google Voice. Open navigation menu. Button.
Let me
Oh, make sure
try.
this isn't playing over here.
Let me pull that up. I'm gonna
Okay.
try.
I got distracted.
We'll try the
Call/message.
reasonable accommodation.
Call/message folder. 5 apps.
Did I put that in your folder?
Double tap to open.
I believe you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the federal one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just a second. Oops. I closed it.
I believe so. All right, we'll try the. So one of the times I called, maybe it was yesterday, the day before, I can't remember. I called, and then the same number I just tried, and they sent me to some other department, and in that department was an executive office, and they didn't know what Section 504 was or if they had anybody, right? This is the executive level, like the people running these branches and running these facilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know what it was. And I explained a little bit more. So, do a complaint based on discrimination for disability. And she's like, oh, discrimination complaint. Okay, yeah. And then she forwarded me on to these people, but didn't tell me like what their positions were. She just told me their names. So this is Priscilla Walker that I'm going to try to call now. And I found out that she's not Section 504 coordinator, but she's EO, Equal Opportunity, right? So we're going to try that one. And I talked to her again yesterday or the day before, and she was pleasant to speak with, but she also said that she had no idea what Section 504 was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I told her, explained a little bit about it, and she said that they didn't have anybody in that position, and that I had to go outside of their facility and outside of their system to talk to some national ORM, which is Office of Resource Management.
Call +1 504
All right, so we're going to try Priscilla Walker here.
EEO officer speaking to Ms. Walker. How may I help you?
Hey, Priscilla. Hey, I was calling to see if you found out who the. I've got some bad feedback on my line.
Hold on just 1 second. And I know that's on my end. Hold on.
Think maybe she's watching the YouTube channel.
No.
All right, check. Hey, I don't hear myself. All right, can you still hear me?
Okay. I can. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. Thank you.
Okay. So I was just about to respond to you. I have like 4 different people sending me stuff at the same time.
Okay.
So I didn't get a chance to send you the response that the EA just sent to me. And so I'm going to respond with the second line supervisor name for that time period. The only thing was that she was not sure about the July 2019 second line, but if I'm not mistaken, that one is going to be the director also, because back then you didn't have a deputy chief of staff; it was just the chief of staff. Just give me a minute and I will respond to that. So now, what did you just send me?
Well, actually, I don't think I got your email when I spoke to you on the phone the other day. I'm following up on the Section 504 complaint process.
Well, I didn't ever get that email. You may have sent that one straight to Ms. Earhart.
No, I don't think I had either of your emails. I think how we left it was I think you told me that you were going to email me, and then I told you I would send you the VA handbook on Section 504 compliance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been talking to so many people today, and I thought that, I apologize.
That's okay.
I thought that you were an investigator that I have been working with all day, yesterday and today. And so Mr. Michael is your first name, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I apologize. I have been working this investigation, and I have not actually gotten to it yet.
Okay.
But I am, because I have a deadline for this investigation today.
Uh-huh.
So I've been, and that's who I actually thought you were.
Oh, yeah.
Was the investigator.
Well, as far as you know, do you know if the Gulf Coast VA medical system has a Section 504 coordinator at any of the facilities?
I don't, I really don't know, because I'm just getting into my position, and so I really don't know for all of the other facilities, but I will. My supervisor is on leave this week.
Right.
So I will be able to let you know Monday when she returns if the VA, has one, and if our facility, is like currently trying to recruit for one.
Right.
Because I'm not, sure, because I'm still in a learning mode.
Sure.
Myself.
Well, do you know if there's a billboard anywhere in the facility that you work that has the Section 504 information laid out for people?
If it was already, up on a board, it would be on one of the boards, but I cannot really attest to that because I haven't seen that information. So I don't know, if it's posted up there, or not.
Okay. Well,
So,
you said your supervisor, is it Mrs. Earhart or what's her name again?
It's Earhart. Miss Earhart.
Earhart.
Anita Earhart.
Okay. And she comes back in on Monday?
Yes.
Okay. So if a veteran with a disability has an issue between now and next week, how do they go about making a request for accommodation because of disability or making a complaint because of discrimination?
as I shared with you yesterday, if you want to file a complaint of discrimination, that is not within our office. That is with ORM. You have to contact the Office of Resolution of Management, in which you said that you had already did that regarding a complaint.
Right.
Now, if they wanted to, say, for instance, if the person needed an interpreter, or anything, they could contact me, and then I would call. I would say if it was for a sign language interpreter,
right.
I would make contact with the center that we use and schedule that. And then if, say, for instance, if it was any other language solutions issue, then once the veteran, say, for instance, if a veteran spoke a different language,
sure,
couldn't, then that immediate area that he is in has the telephone 1-800 number that immediately would provide the assistance for that.
That's good. And I think you said you were gonna draft an email to try to help me with making sure.
And I'm gonna try to get to that today, because I've got to get this information by the close of business. I've been trying to gather, everything to get that to the investigator.
Right.
Because I got to have that closed out by today.
Right.
And as soon as I can get that, if I don't have, other things that have popped up throughout today, and then I will get that email out today.
Okay. And I thank you for that. I appreciate that. And for trying to help me out and the other veterans that you're working on behalf of. But as far as currently, if there's an issue, like between now and Monday, when Anita comes back in, if a veteran feels discriminated against, or because there's no accommodation being made for their disability, they don't have any kind of direct person they can talk to assist them with that, like through.
Yes, just like when you called me and I asked, what is it that I could do to assist you? And so I would be that person. Say, for instance, if you were, if you were coming into the VA today for an appointment.
Yeah.
And you needed someone there to assist you to get through.
Yeah.
Because you were, because you are blind.
Right.
You can't interpret any of the information that they are providing.
Right.
So then we would just provide an interpreter to be there to read everything that you need and guide you through your appointment.
Okay. Now I have the benefit of having the opportunity to talk to you, but that's after a couple months of trying to find who to talk to and how to do this process. If a veteran didn't already struggle with this and go through jumping hoops for a couple months and get the information like I have, if they show up to an appointment and need assistance.
Well, we have assisted a couple of our blind veterans with the sign language interpreters that go with them to their appointment. We just recently have had one and have one for next week, in which he has like 3 appointments that the person will be assisting them with.
Okay. Now what if the veteran has a disability that makes it so they can't wear a mask? What kind of accommodation can the VA offer the veteran to be able to do their business at the VA facility?
Now that one, I'm pretty sure that I can't remember how they handle that within the clinics because that issue has already occurred. And they resolved. I think they, and I can't recall how the clinics handled that because they did not involve our service. They handled it themselves.
Yeah.
And provided care for the veteran.
Okay. So if a veteran does try to go get care at the VA system and they can't wear a mask, are they going to be confronted by VA police? Like,
I can't answer that question for you because I'm not part of the operations of the VA.
uh-huh.
Our office just provides the accommodation.
Yeah, because I think one of the
So
patient advocates.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so I can't answer that question for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the patient advocates told me that the VA police are the ones that handle mask exemptions and people getting into the building, like through the screening areas and stuff with masks or without masks. So that seems problematic to me that that the VA police, who probably aren't HIPAA certified, are requiring.
Well, before you take that answer, you probably should speak to our public affairs office
That
to get
Vernon.
the correct answer.
Yeah, would it be Vernon Stuart?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of Vernon for over a week now, and I keep leaving him messages, but he's not calling me back or replying to my emails. So if I go in person to a VA facility and try to get access to the services that the VA provides, will I be threatened by the VA police, do you think? And if that happens, will I be able to call you to help them? To help me?
I cannot answer that question.
Okay.
Because I'm not part of operations.
Right.
I can only, the only thing that I can provide you with is that if you make contact with our office and you need an accommodation to assist you with your appointment.
Uh-huh. Right. And so that's what I'm asking. Like, if I go to a VA facility.
But that's the operations side of it.
Sure.
That's not the actual appointment. So I can't address the areas that are outside of my my authority.
Okay. Who at the VA then would make sure there's not discrimination for people getting into the building for operations, if that's what you're calling it? Yeah. What position is that?
But there is no discrimination. There is no discrimination on that, and there have been employees, because they have a medical reason, a medical exemption from wearing a mask, they are able to proceed on within the facility.
Great.
But you are trying to force me to answer things that I repeatedly told you that I cannot answer.
Oh, no, you're saying if the VA is making exemptions to employees, then surely they make exemptions to disabled veterans, right?
Well, see, there you go again. You are trying to force me to answer questions that I've asked. I have stated that, anything that's out of my jurisdiction, I can't provide you an answer on.
Oh, and that's fine. If it's out of your wheelhouse, that's fine. Just could you direct me to the person that is in their wheelhouse or their jurisdiction?
And just like I said before, the answers that you are requiring would be those that would be provided by our public affairs, because they will know the response for anyone that would contact the VA to inquire about coming onto the premises of the VA during COVID. They would be, that office would be able to answer any person's question.
Okay. What happens? Is there an alternate for the public affairs, or is it just Vernon Stewart?
he is the chief of the service. Yes, he is.
Is there another? Does he have like a second in command or something that I can contact?
He does. He doesn't have an assistant chief or anything. Hold on just 1 second, okay? Hold on just 1 second. No, he doesn't have an assistant chief under him, but I'm trying to see, the patient advocacy supervisor would he would more than likely know.
And that's Michael Simmons, right?
Yes.
Okay. What's his contact info? I don't think I have it.
His telephone number is 523-5661.
And what's the prefix on that?
I'm sorry, it's 228.
228. Okay.
528, 523,
So 228 523
5661.
5661. Okay, and that's for Michael Simmons.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Cool, Priscilla. Hopefully I don't, get accosted by the VA police for trying to go to the VA. But if I do, can I call you to try to assist me in making sure there's accommodation?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it.
All right. So thank you so much.
And I'll send you that that handbook I told you about for Section 504. Whenever I get your email, I'll reply and attach it for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Suggestions. Heading.
Whew. All right. So Priscilla wants to be helpful, right? But she's not trained. She doesn't have the training on Section 504. She doesn't have a person that is designated as the coordinator in the facility that she works in. And she doesn't know if there's any in the other facilities. She doesn't even know if there's a poster explaining the process, right? She's trying to help make sure there's accommodation, which is what has kind of been the response for whenever I bring up the issues of discrimination, right? Unless they hang up on me like Sarah has several times, right? And a lot of times they're like, well, let me try to figure it out. Let me try to help make sure there's an accommodation. Like, oh, it's not discrimination. There's a mask mandate. There's no exemptions, right? That's the one I get most frequently. And then we had a patient advocate tell me that they make exemptions for employees, VA employees. And now we've had the EO, because Priscilla Walker there is at the EO department. And she said that they make exemptions for employees for the mask mandate. So we've got a few different departments confirming that they do, in fact, make medical exemptions based on disability to the mask mandate, right? So why are they lying to the disabled veterans that want to get access to the facilities by saying that they don't make exemptions?
More work.
Right? Yeah, it's more work. One, they don't have the
It's
training.
easier.
They don't have the training, right? They don't have the positions filled to train them and teach them. No, you have to make the exemption. You have to make the accommodation, right? You have to make a reasonable accommodation. Now, if you're trying to refill your pharmacy, like your drugs at the pharmacy, they have an accommodation for that, right? They'll say, oh, just call the number, right? And you can fulfill it over the phone, or you can do it on the website, right? There's different ways to accommodate for the pharmacy. Okay, that makes sense, right? They can make accommodations to appointments. Like if there's no physical like touching or examination that needs to happen, then you can do it over the phone or over the VDC, the video connect, right? That makes sense for an accommodation. Okay. What about physical examinations, like getting x-rays, getting blood drawn, right? The things that they need to get done for me. Where's the accommodation there? I have to physically go in to a facility for those things to happen. And their solution thus far is to freak out and say, we don't make exemptions, and to push off month and month and month for me. And so I say, well, fine, just put me in the community and I'll go to a local private sector doctor and they make exemptions because they don't want to break the law and get sued for discrimination, right? It's a lot harder to sue the federal government and the agencies in the federal government that are breaking federal law than it is to sue and hold a private practice or a private sector person for breaking the law. It's a lot harder to do it in the public sector. Just try to find an attorney to do it. Title II work under the ADA or Section 504 work. Like most, if you do a search for disability lawyer, you're going to find all kinds of things that's going to pop up. Disability lawyer, disability lawyer, disability lawyer, right? And if you call them, go down the list, 99% of them are going to be Title I. And that's employment related. Like if you're being discriminated against because of disability from your employer, like, right? Your employer says, oh, well, you're blind, so you can't work on a computer. Then that's Title I. And there's actually a good case on that where I think a blind lady wasn't able to log into the computer system at her job, and she sued the company, right? And instead of the company making her computer station accessible so that she can work on the computer, they didn't do that, right? And instead, she asked for reasonable accommodations, and the judge said, okay, well, until you make her station accessible to her, you need to lock down everybody's station and give equal access to every employee, meaning the same access that you have for the blind person, which is 0, is the same access that you're going to give every other employee. So zero access to everybody. So the federal judge actually mandated that the company lock down all the computer systems, right? Negatively impacting everybody to dropping the standard. It's equal, but instead of raising the standard of everybody has access, let me make sure that the person with disability also has access. They didn't do that. Eventually they did, right? They then had a monetary incentive to get their shit in order, right? To fix the problem and stop discriminating. So they quickly figured out how to provide a system where the person with a visual impairment could access the computer. So that's a great precedent, because whenever I ask for accommodations, whether it be in court or in the VA or wherever, if I ask for accommodations for a visual interpreter and they deny it, and I ask for, okay, well, at least let me have visual notes so that I can have somebody interpret it later, the visual information that's happening around me. And if they deny that, right, then I ask for everybody have the same level of access to visual information. Then I ask everybody wear a blindfold, because there's a case for that. Like there's case law, there's precedent that they can make basically negatively impact everybody and limit everybody, so nobody has access to visual information during the meeting or during the encounter. And that has yet to work, because again, you have to force them to do it, and that means you have to
They can't understand that. Some of them can't.
Are they making it?
They did earlier.
That means you have to actually sue them or take it to a federal court to force them into compliance, because most states don't have enforcement for ADA violations and for Section 504 violations, right? So some states have some portions codified, some have others codified. So it's a criminal offense to discriminate against people with disabilities, but most states don't. So it's on the person with the disability to actually sue. There's a guy in California that has like close to a couple hundred. He's wheelchair bound. Close to a couple hundred lawsuits. And there's a good article on him, about it. And he says, well, I do this because I have to. Like the only option in order to make sure that there's no discrimination for me and other people in wheelchairs is for us to take this action. And you don't recover monetary damages unless there is like a physical injury under Title II, in my understanding. But he does Title III lawsuits mainly, like private sector, like going into a restaurant and there's no ramp, or the tables aren't high enough or whatever, right? And the point is to force them into compliance. You recover your attorney's fees and everything like that, but so it's not even really a big payout for him. It's just making the change. So let's try them again here. Bryan, Matthews, should be Sarah.
Is he out?
Yeah, he's out of the office this week.
Executive office. This is Michelle. How can I help you?
Hey, Is Sarah available?
She stepped away from my desk for just a few minutes.
Okay. What about Brian? Is he in this week?
Who?
Brian Matthews?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The director is on leave this week.
He's on leave this week? When is he expected back?
I'm not exactly sure. Sarah just walked in. Can I get your name and transfer you to her?
Yeah, you can just transfer. I've been trying to talk to her off and on this afternoon.
What's your name, sir?
I haven't given it to her yet.
Oh, okay.
It's regarding
Problem?
disability discrimination.
Right, but I was going to have a name for you, so I don't just transfer you blindly. No.
Yeah, it's okay though. Is there a policy, like a VA policy, that requires you guys to have somebody's name to do a transfer?
It's no policy that you give your name, but it doesn't bode well for us.
Okay.
Because, we are trying to be courteous to you.
Yeah.
Give me my name.
Yeah.
And in respect, it's just you give me your name.
Sure. I appreciate that position, but I find it discourteous to demand my information to do a transfer.
So you want me to just send you to her without any knowledge of who you are?
Sure.
I'm sorry, we don't do that here, sir.
Okay, but there's no policy?
It's no policy?
Right.
I'm sorry. I don't really understand, sir.
So you don't do that, but is there a policy that says to not do that, or is it just because you don't want to?
Sir, I'm sorry. It seems like this may be some kind of prank phone call, so I'm going to hang up.
No, it's absolutely not. I'm trying to receive help.
So I don't understand. If the claim is we're doing this as a courtesy to you, we're trying to be courteous, but you're not being courteous. You're being a fucking cop. Like you're saying, give me your identification if you want anything else, because otherwise I'm going to hang up on you. And that's wrong, especially when you're trying to file a complaint, which aren't you supposed to be able to do that anonymously? Or
It depends on the
504
complaint. With Section 504, it's supposed to be written, and then you give like name and address and these identifying things, right? Because it's a violation of the law. So they want the complainant's information, right?
Okay.
Essentially, so they can face their accuser.
Okay, so once you finally find the person who is handled, who is able to process a 504 complaint properly,
right?
That's the person you give your information
Yes.
to. Otherwise, they're going to tag you in your record as non-compliant or as whatever little labels and tags they want.
Right.
Just because you're trying to file a complaint, trying to find out who this person is.
Right.
And that's wrong. Like,
yeah. There's no requirement to give your information
so nice to people
until you put it in writing, your complaint in writing, and you submit it in writing, which I already have, which the EO lady, Priscilla, mentioned. I already did that via email and to the ORM, or maybe not via email, maybe through their web portal, but I submitted it in writing and I gave them the information and everything. And I even gave it to Priscilla because she was following up with it. So yeah, this is just crazy. Just to transfer, they say there's no policy, but they're going to demand ID and for courtesy. And I said, well, that's not courteous to me. That's discourteous to me. So if your concern is being courteous to me, I'm telling you what you're doing is discourteous. Please be courteous.
right,
They actually
help you be courteous.
So I was asking her to pull up the federal, it's like, I think it's either CFR or the USC on code of ethics and code of conduct, because I reviewed that the other day and they're violating this like left and right with how they're treating on the phone. So,
This is funny. I'm not gonna read it. It's okay.
nonsense.
Just nonsense. Just it's the same kind of argument. Like, well, the person who's on the phone, like when she said, "Well, I'm a disabled veteran too." Like that argument is just because you are a disabled veteran doesn't mean that you're not being rude to the disabled veteran you're talking to.
Right. It's like saying, "Well, I'm a woman, so I can't be rude to women."
And women, we know that's not true. Right?
Pull up maybe like any like VA positions in Washington, D.C.? The VA admin
yeah.
numbers?
Yeah, that's right, because we're going to...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just take it out of this.
Mm-hmm. So again, this is the Biloxi VA Medical Center director's line.
Your party is not answering.
And they're
Please
not-
try your call later. We're
They're not answering the phone
Google Voice. Open that
because they're breaking the wall and they're covering
Ryan
it.
Matthews, 2:36 p.m. Call rate, delete. Archive. Mark as spam. Block number. Copy number. Message. Call. Relay your call through.
They're trying to block and cover
669. Leader carrier.
for the fact that they're breaking the wall.
Alert. Call +1 678 2. +1 678 2. Okay.
You can call Michael Simmons, actually. Get that number. You got that?
Mm-hmm. Ask them to pick it. Ask them to pick a state.
Yeah. Do that next. Well, I mean, we'll call Michael Simmons first, and then we'll change it up. All right, so do you have that one?
Outgoing calls
Michael
Ryan
Simmons?
Matthews, 3:03 p.m. Call duration.
Yeah, dog.
Messages. Up. Keypad. Button.
There's,
Got you.
there's 228.
ABC.
Wait.
2. ABC. 2. 5.
Oh,
8.
that's what
2.
Mhm. 522. What was it?
523?
5
5. 2.
2 3.
DM.
6 1 1.
5
5,
6 6 1. Stop it.
6. 5. 1.
1. Okay.
Sometimes you're dead on. Other times not.
Michael Simmons. Now she said that he wasn't in. Remember?
So
Sarah.
it's no one. She managed to call all of them.
Yeah, Sarah.
Like 3 seconds.
Right.
Somebody commented on that in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Somebody in the chat called the VA and notified them of your prank calls.
Oh, really?
So
I'm
they're
sorry.
lying.
Extension 35661
That's why
does
they
not
said prank
answer.
calls.
This mailbox is currently full. To transfer.
Yeah, so somebody's lying about this being prank calls. Well, I need to use the bathroom, so you can...
Block them from the channel.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool.
You can do that. And then
Deuces.
you can ask the group to pick a VA, any VA, on the map, the United States, and we'll give them a call and see if we can find out who their Section 504 coordinator is in their region or their local facility. But then also if somebody wants to try to find like a national admin number, like in Washington, D.C. for the VA, we can try them as well. But I use the bathroom, so I'll be right back. Mrs. Justice, you have it.
All right, people. You say I can tell them. You just told them all that. Ugh. I'm taking your chair.
Well, you can talk with them. If somebody
I'm just kidding. I got it.
says they want Texas or this part of Texas, because there are multiple ones in Texas too.
All right. You heard the man. Let's do it. What? Say long. All right. Put the name, and if you get the number before I do, that'll be great. I'm not condescending. What happens after that? After what? Interesting. Just hold on. I gotta make a couple of screenshots here, guys. Give me a second. Seems like you've implicated yourself in a crime you're alleging someone else committed. Indeed, Johnny. I think it was to send me info on that. Oh yeah, you guys can always email us too. I've seen a couple of you comment in the chat that we didn't get to. insightisfree@gmail.com. I know that's been put up a couple times. But all right. Anybody got any phone numbers for me? Call the VA website. It'll be easier to find than Pokemon. Indeed. All right. Let's find. How do I look up that? Sorry, I'm going to work for a second. If I'm clicking in your ear, sorry. Do I still play Pokemon? Some. Definitely don't play as much as I used to. When you get pulled out of a car, put in cuffs, and your husband's kidnapped from you, kind of puts a damper on the game. All right. Well, this Office of Veterans Affairs DC. That might not be it. No. Oh, that's just the state. Lame. So talking about VA Health Services. Yes. I'm trying to find phone numbers for the head of the VA Health Administration System. I tried Washington, but it wasn't it. Let's see. Yay. Administrative office. Office. Screen jumped, sorry. You're in the chat. Oh. Spinning circle, am I here? You'd think I should be able to find it on the VA website. There's contact us, maybe, but that's going to be some low level phone answerer person. I don't mean that condescendingly, just they won't have answers. Okay. All right, so let's try over here in the contact us section. I guess I could share my screen. You can just watch me zipping around the internet. Since I'm not talking. Get back here to this microphone. Mm-hmm. I can't talk and search at the same time, babe.
All right. I'm behind on your.
I know, it's 30 seconds
the
behind.
relay. Yeah.
Well, that might be.
Okay. She's going to keep looking. If you guys have a VA that you want us to call and find out if they know who their VA Section 504 coordinator is, put it in the chat. Make sure you @ us so that we can find it easy. And we'll give them a call. So we're going to try that. I'm going to try to find one.
I was saying, I got, well, you heard that. I was saying, I can get like a generic contact us.
I mean, we can call whatever. If you want to find it, if it's at the VA level,
So,
admin, call us. We can call them in and just work our way up. That's what I'm saying. It took 2 months.
yeah.
Like calling people. And first it was just patient advocates. And then the patient advocate went to the supervisor patient advocate. And then to the FOIA person. And then to the director for the Gulf Coast system. And then, we've only been able to talk to Sarah, like the executive assistant. And then we got the EO person finally, like yesterday or the day before. And then, the PAO, public affairs person. Like, so like through calling and emailing, trying to like talk to like who do we talk to? Who knows this information? Like everybody's like, I don't know if we have that. Let me try to talk to this person. And they don't tell me who they're talking to. And then I call back and then eventually I find out and they tell me and I call them directly and they don't know. And they say, oh, we're going to find out and I'll get back to you. And nobody knows. And then they ultimately come to the conclusion, we don't have anybody in this role, Section 504 coordinator. That's a big no-no. That's like a violation of the federal law, right? What's up?
There, you could just start at the My VA 411 main information line.
Okay.
That's the bottom. So I want everyone to take note of your mental health right now. Like, are you feeling suicidal? Are you having thoughts of suicide? No, some of you might be, but most of you aren't. Now, listen to how many times suicide is mentioned in these recordings and hold systems. So you may not have had any thoughts of it prior to, but the minute you get on hold at the VA, guess what is put into your head over and over and over and over again, acting like they're concerned for your mental health. And maybe somebody thought that was a good idea, but when you say it enough times, guess what I'm thinking about by the time we get off the phone with these people? Like, come on. Subliminal messages much, but they're not even like subliminal. It's just like all
okay. We got
junk.
For Texas, we got Amarillo, we got West Texas, we got Dallas, El Paso, San Antonio.
Hey, Ken Dalton.
Who do we know near San Antonio?
Sheepdog.
Yeah, Texas Sheepdog, and there's a few other people down there. Let's call them. Let's call the South Texas
I'm like all of them screen.
Veterans Healthcare System. I'll find their number.
You need to speak to is out today or in a meeting. Yes, always. Yes, Reverend Fuzzy.
All right, it's the Audie Murphy VA Hospital.
Okay.
And I'm going to give them a call. You can still look for like the...
Cool breeze, yes.
Huh?
Go ahead. I was commenting.
You can still look for the...
boss man.
Federal, like somebody in DC.
I'm going to get that unless one of my tech people beat me.
All right. Hopefully, now this is going to be like their stupid system because.
Oh, it's a new system.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know any extensions for this. This is just going to be.
Oh,
this is where
welcome to the VA.
This is where the journey starts, people.
These are terrible. Maybe we're gonna find a good one.
Unless somebody wants to try to find the Audie Murphy VA in Texas PAO.
San Antonio VA Medical Center. If you are having a medical or mental health emergency, hang up and dial 911. If you are having thoughts of suicide, press 7 now to be connected with the Veterans Crisis Line, or you may call 1-800-273.
The Veteran Crisis Line has a duty to report.
Joe Black, Office of Veteran Affairs, headquarters phone number.
For Mission Act or Community Care general inquiries regarding eligibility, urgent care, co-payments, insurance, and appeals, please press 6. If you know your party's extension, dial it at any time.
I don't.
For the pharmacy, press 1.
Pharmacy's always first.
To make, change, or cancel a VA or community care appointment, or to relay a message to your primary care, mental health, or specialty care provider, press 2. To apply or determine your eligibility for health care, press 3. For billing questions, press 4. For all other questions, Press 0 for operator assistance.
1 moment, please.
Hit 0. Settle.
You are now first.
The real sovereign citizen. This is a drinking game and the code word is suicide.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Good afternoon, University Hospital, Operator 12.
Hey, Operator 12, can you get me to the facility director or executive office, please?
Okay. For facility, sir? Okay, give me 1 minute. You said facility, sir? I'm sorry, the phone kind of cut out.
The executive office for the
Okay.
VA.
Okay, give me 1 moment.
We actually got to a human relatively quickly.
Yeah.
We're doing all right.
Engineering service, how may I direct your call?
Yeah, I'm trying to reach the director.
The director?
Yeah.
They sent you to the wrong department then, because this is engineering service.
Oh, engineering.
What's that?
Do you happen to have the number for the director's office?
Okay, my computer.
And she hung up.
I don't know that she intended to hang up. It sounded like she was having trouble with her things. Pushing
Yeah. Okay. So
buttons.
do you want to try this again, or do you want to try the one that Joe Black got us?
Let's do the one Joe Black got us.
All right.
And then we can go back if we want to.
All right.
But it's painful. But I only heard suicide once,
All right,
and
what
we
do you
got 2 humans. 202. 724. 5455. They said, cool breeze said, try again.
All right.
We'll come back.
We'll come back to them.
We don't want to use all our time on that when we might not. Well,
Yeah, because
all of it may be dead.
It's like 4:30 East Coast time, so let's go East Coast first.
we could just engineering and doesn't know how to work on a phone. Oh my god. That's true. I didn't think about that. Hey Jeff.
Engineering. Yeah, I got a plumbing issue on first floor men's room.
Thank you for calling the D.C. Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs. This is not the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs. If you're trying to reach the Federal VA regarding claims, benefits, or complaints, please call 1-844-698-2311. If you're calling in regards to district veteran issues,
Yeah,
please leave a message and someone will get back.
411, I think.
All right.
But that's okay.
All right, we can try that.
Yeah.
So that was Washington, D.C., like the city.
Yeah, like
Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs.
Oh, that's about
Weird.
whatever.
Never heard that before. Okay, what we got?
84. I sent it to you on Signal, but 844
Yeah, this is fun.
698
Let everybody experience it. 6, 9, 8.
2311. Every painstaking moment. Oh man, I gotta read these comments. They're
So
entertaining.
people that have been wondering where I've been and what we've been doing, a lot of it is this. Yeah, just
No.
not on camera.
No, because it's
this
boring.
This is not the most entertaining. Like, but it's like painstaking. And,
Well, yeah, usually
and you get tossed around from person to person who doesn't know the law, doesn't know how to make accommodations
no
or
worry, Joe Black.
process complaints.
Welcome to the Department of Veterans
But they have a
Affairs.
phone number.
If you are having thoughts
Yeah.
of suicide, press 7 now to be connected to the
There you go.
Veterans
Suicide.
Crisis Line. To be connected to the Veteran Homeless Helpline, press 6 now. Please note there is a new telephone number for the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Oh my God.
1-800-698-2411. The current number that you have dialed will be going out of service.
Oh my God.
Please use the new number 1-800-698-2411
Got it.
moving
What did we do?
forward.
All right, let's try that. I'll put it in. Deep breaths, everybody.
All right, here we go again.
GUV.
8.
Take a drink, Krista.
What is it?
5. JKL.
698
6. MNO. 6. 9. WMX. 9. 8.
Mm-hmm.
GUV.
2411.
2. ABC. 2. 4.
Yeah,
JKL.
Ken.
4. 4. 1. 1. 4. 1. 1. 5. 8. 0.
I have the night. I wouldn't say it's boring. It's infuriating. All right.
Relaying your call through. 9.
They
1.
fussed
6.
at me
1.
for
7. 2. 3.
dropping
6.
an
1.
F-bomb
1.
earlier.
Oh,
Like
really?
3 different people in chat. Don't cuss. I'm like, what? You do this for an hour.
+1. 9. 1.
I'm
6.
just kidding.
Or month after month,
Month. Well, yeah, months.
year
Years.
after year.
+1. 9. 1. 6. 5. 7. 2.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Department of Veterans
I
Affairs.
dropped one.
If you are having thoughts of suicide,
Suicide.
press 7 now to be connected to the Veterans
I guess
Crisis
that's 3.
Line.
Can't do them
To be
individually.
connected to the Veteran Homeless Helpline, press 6 now. Press 8 for information on COVID-19 vaccines and answers to your frequently asked questions about the COVID-19 virus. For Mission Act General Inquiries, Community Health Care, or Urgent Care information, please press 1. For issues around health care eligibility, enrollment, or payments related to health care, press 2. If you are already enrolled in VA health care and want to connect to your local VA medical center, press 3. For questions related to burial benefits, payment scheduling, or cemeteries, press 4. For non-health care
Cemeteries.
benefits such as disability compensation, education, insurance, home loan programs, or to inquire about a debt, press 5. If you are unsure which option will serve your needs, press 0 and we will be happy to assist you. At any time during this call, you may press star to return to the main menu, or press pound to hear the current options again. We understand you would like to speak with an agent. Please hold as we transfer your call to our Tier 1 assistants.
What were you saying?
I don't remember.
Cool.
I kept reading.
Please remain on the line and your call will be answered in the order
Somebody
received.
said, wait, what's in that drink?
Once you are connected, your call may be monitored or recorded for training purposes.
Oh.
If selected, would you be willing to answer a 2-minute survey at the end of this call about your experience with our contact center? Press 1 if you're willing to participate in the survey, or press 2 to continue.
I said yes. We'll do their survey for them too.
Thank you for calling the Department of Veterans Affairs. My name is Jonathan. How may I be of service to you today?
Hey, Jonathan, I'm trying to talk to somebody about Section 504 compliance with the regional VA.
Okay, Section 504 compliance.
Yeah.
What does that relate to?
Was it related to?
Yes.
Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973?
Okay. Let me see here. What is the spelling of your first and last name?
Why do you need that?
I had to try to verify anyone who calls. If you don't want to give that information, that's fine. Let me look here. You mind if I put you just on a very brief hold?
No, that's fine.
Excellent. Are you the veteran?
Yes.
All right, one moment.
The veteran.
Get you a shirt that says the veteran. I'm kidding. He's done good so far.
So far, he's doing okay.
He's doing good. I like Jonathan. He said his name clearly. He enunciated.
Yeah.
He said, well, if you want to give that, that's fine. We're good. So far. I mean, ish.
Didn't sound like it knows what Section 504 is.
But even though there were... So I want to say, well, he's just a guy that answers the phone. Like, he might not know. However, that was my first knee-jerk reaction. But according to even the VA handbook, like the VA handbook says they all should have this in their email. Every
employee.
single-
You said this for a local VA medical center, sir?
I'm sorry, say that again.
You said this was for a local VA medical center?
Well, I'm trying to figure out who the Section 504 coordinator is for a regional VA Medical Center. But if there's somebody at the national level that I can talk to about Section 504 compliance, then that's okay too. Like just anybody.
Okay, let me look here. I will need your zip code.
Oh, for the regional?
Yeah.
The regional one I've been trying to use is the Biloxi. It's the Gulf Coast regional VA medical system.
All right, Biloxi. Sorry, just takes a moment.
Somebody else is trying to find out where we're calling so they can make them aware of prank calls.
All right, I'm going to get you over to that medical center, and they're the ones who'd be able to help you. Okay.
Well, no, that's not going to help because I've been trying to talk with them and they keep hanging up on me. One of them said they don't have a Section 504 coordinator, and surely that's not the case because that's against the law. So that's why I call the national number. Maybe somebody in the national level can point me in the right direction.
Okay. Let me get a hold of. Let me call someone myself, and I'll see if they can help out. Okay.
Okay.
All right, one quick moment. I'll be right over with you. Is there anything else you might need while I have you here?
That's it. I mean, is there anybody at the national level, like a Section 504? Okay, cool.
All right. I hope you have a good day. Thanks for calling the VA. I'm going to get hold of them right now. One moment.
Okay.
So just to recap, the point of this is not to pick on people. It's to find out if, one, what veterans are supposed to do when they're being discriminated against, and to see if the VA is following not only federal law, but their own policies. Because if they're not, then how do we correct it so that people who are going to the VA can have help when they need it, that aren't discriminated against? Like, clearly it's an issue because in 2020 they put out a handbook saying, hey, we have this systemic problem and we're being discriminatory against people. So they put out a handbook so that each person could know and understand how to file a disability complaint properly via a 504 coordinator. And so that every person at the VA, including this guy, would have access to that person, would know the phone number, not just the 504 coordinator, but also their person that works under them, the secondary, and then the process for initiating that complaint, so that they could be handled through the proper channels. So that this person with the disability
isn't telling it 500 times to 500 different people that don't know the process and don't know the law and don't know how to accommodate or how to file a complaint properly. Because the complaint process has time windows. They have time requirements they're supposed to follow. And then the person being discriminated against has to go through that time window and allow them the timeline to correct the issue and provide the accommodation before it gets escalated to the Department of Justice and before you can sue them, right? To have the courts force them to come into compliance. But that timeline, like, supposedly is supposed to start whenever you file a complaint in a written format. But if you don't know who to send it to, if they don't have a person to receive it, then is the timeline started? I would argue it is started because they keep hiding the person. Hello?
Hi there. Oh, I didn't know he was going to do a direct transfer. Hi, this is Christina at the White House VA hotline. I'm guessing you're being transferred by, I don't know who he was.
It was Jonathan. Yeah, it was Jonathan. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm here to assist. Again, I'm Christina at the White House VA hotline. He said you did mention something about you feel that you're being discriminated against. So if you want to tell me more about that, is this at a VA facility or? Yeah.
Do you happen to know if there's a Section 504 coordinator, like at the national level for the VA medical systems?
Section 504. Never been asked that question before. So I will look into it. And I mean, which VA facility is this?
The one that I've been having problems with is.
Or you're just looking.
Yeah, well, in general, I've been having problems, but the one specifically is Biloxi, the Gulf Coast VA Medical Center in Biloxi. they've told me that they don't have any Section 504 coordinators, which surely isn't the case because that's against the law. Like each facility is required to have a primary and a secondary, and their information is supposed to be made public, like published, like on the bulletin boards at the facilities and on the websites. And it's supposed to be an easy process. Like if a disabled veteran is being discriminated against because of disability, they should be able to find that person and call them and submit a written complaint if necessary, and begin the process to fix it. But I've been trying for 2 months to get a hold of who that person is. And finally they told me just this past week and reaffirmed today on the phone that they don't have one. And surely that's not the case. So hopefully it's just a couple of bad apples that are lying to me and blocking me from making my complaint, and not actually the VA medical system doesn't actually have these people, these designated employees, which they're required to have under the law. Because that's a major problem.
All right. Let's see.
Are you familiar with?
Now, is there another name for that?
Yeah, there's
I've heard of this.
a handbook came out. I think it was published January 23rd, 2020 for the VA. And the handbook is titled something like Section 504 Compliance. And Section 504 is of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. And basically, it's the predecessor to the Americans with Disabilities Act. And since the VA is a federal entity, the VA is not subject to the ADA, but it is subject to Section 504. And so it's the anti-discrimination or the non-discrimination federal law that all federal entities are supposed to follow. And the VA, I guess, did an internal audit back in 2019 and discovered that the VA is in gross non-compliance. So they issued a handbook back in January of 2020 and gave every VA 1 year to come into compliance with it. And I'm discovering that most people don't even know this handbook exists. That doesn't know what Section 504 is. They don't have coordinators. They don't have the postings. Like there is no system in place to assist disabled veterans that are being discriminated against because of disability, which is gross violations of the law.
Interesting. Okay. I'm just thinking, is there another name for this person? Maybe it's maybe it'd fall under the equal opportunity person, or
the handbook number is
facility or the patient advocate.
No, the handbook number is 597.5.6. If that helps you out. But I've been passed around by the Biloxi VA, by the Gulf Coast Medical Center, to patient advocates, and they don't know what Section 504 is, to the EO office, and they said they don't handle Section 504, that they don't have a Section 504 coordinator. To the PAO and Vernon Stuart, and he said he'd get that information and get back to me, but that's been over a week, and I've been calling them and asking for updates and emailing them and getting nothing. So I think they're in damage control mode and are trying to hide the fact that they don't have these positions filled. And this is like I mentioned, it's gross violations of the federal law. Like there's nobody in these positions to assist disabled veterans if they're being discriminated against. Essentially, they pass them off. They pass us off to the patient advocate, and the patient advocate doesn't have any training. Like I've asked them, and including the supervisor for the VA Medical Center for that region, Michael Simmons, and he said he doesn't have any training on Section 504. And I said, well, what process do you do if there's discrimination? Like in this case with me, like I've been trying to address the discrimination issues, and they say, well, we just go and talk to the provider and try to resolve it. And then they come back to me and say, well, the provider says, this, and so we're gonna have to do whatever the provider says. And then I said, well, what's the policy that provider's citing so that we can modify that policy? Because that's what the Section 504 requires. If the policy is discriminatory as it's applied to a veteran, you can make a request to modify that policy to make sure there's a reasonable accommodation. And they talk to me like I'm speaking gibberish or another language, because they don't have any training on it, and they don't have that coordinator that's supposed to be in that position to coordinate between the disabled veteran and the patient advocate and the providers and everybody else to make sure that it's seamless and that there's no, if there is issues of discrimination, that it's handled properly.
I'm actually looking this up on va.gov now. 'Cause
Okay.
I don't.
Do you need that handbook number again, or you got it?
That on. Oh, I typed it up. I was just I typed 504 coordinator to see if there's anything that comes up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you pull up that handbook, it says specifically that if each facility with 15 employees or more is required to have both a primary and a secondary, and that facility is supposed to publish or put notice of who those people are, who those designated employees are, their contact information, the process for doing disability requests and complaints. And as far as I can tell, none of the VA facilities that I've been trying to get care at or to check on compliance are actually in compliance.
Yeah, I didn't find that. 5875-6, right? Period 6.
I think it's right.
It's not on va.gov.
59, maybe.
I would think it would be.
5975.6.
Or did I put type? Oh, 59. Maybe I copied it wrong. Okay. 59. And then actually, I'm going to get your information too, if you like, because if for some reason we lose each other, I won't be able to route anything.
Yeah.
Let me see. I did find something. Yeah, 59756 transition guide, compliance procedures implementing. This is let's see. Per VA handbook. There's a couple links. I just don't know which one to open. Let's try this one. Sometimes I start looking, then it sends me down a rabbit hole. And really, I'm the intake person, so I'm not going to be the one that's really going to look into this. I don't want to get too deeply.
Sure. So are you actually like in the White House?
No, we are in the DC metro area.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you're actually in the White House.
No.
Well, if
I think when they first started the hotline, I think they were either in the White House or very, very close.
Yeah.
And then we grew, and then we had to find a bigger facility. But we are in the DC metro area.
So if a veteran wanted to visit the White House and there was barriers to doing a tour at the White House because of disability, and the veteran wanted to make an accommodation request so that they can have equal access into the White House, who would process that request?
I would go through the White House. I think a lot of them go through, I want to say to get a tour, I think they go through your elected officials, don't they? That part, I don't specifically, I've never asked.
Yeah, but if the question is if like if I did that and I got approved for a tour and I showed up, and because I have disabilities and I have different assistive devices to help me navigate and walk and not run into things, and I get stopped at security and they say, hey, you can't come in with these doohickeys because they're not trained on disability assistive devices. Like, who would I contact to make the request to get access to the White House with my assistive devices?
Again, that's beyond my knowledge. I can try to find some information.
Right, and that's the role of a Section 504. Right, that's the role of a Section 504 coordinator. Is whenever there's a disability issue, you have each facility has, if they have 15 employees or more, has a disability coordinator that would facilitate and coordinate for the person with a disability to get equal access to the facility or the services. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All right. I'm trying to find something, but that one didn't take me. Yeah, I'm not. I'm looking, but I'm not finding it. So only once I do find it, I mean, I'm not going to really have time to. Well, maybe I did find it. Read it. I don't know how big it is, and I don't know how long.
Yeah, the handbook's not that long, but the Section 504 is decently long. So that the handbook kind of abbreviates kind of the key points in which the VA has been found in non-compliance in the past, and the areas that they need to try to focus and fix. And some of those key areas are, like I mentioned, they don't have designated employees, as the coordinators, and they don't have the notice, anywhere it published for people to find out the process and who to contact.
Okay, and if I can get your information, so because if I route a case, I do have to have a name to attach to the case.
Yeah, sure. You can use the name Mike.
And the last name?
I would just leave it Mike.
I can't do that, unfortunately.
Okay, then
what I might be able to do
Mike and last name Mike. Mike.
Again, I can't put a fictitious name. It actually has to be a real veteran's name, date of birth, social. I have to get all that information.
Is there a policy that requires that?
In order to route a case, I do need to have a real veteran's name to route the case to, so they can follow up with that veteran. I mean, if you like, I can route I think I can do a recommendation to the VA anonymous secretary of the VA's office, but then you're not going to get any feedback. So.
Right. So, so what policy is that requires name and social and all that? Do you know what that policy number is?
I don't have the number, but we follow the SOP that we have, and in order to route a case, that is part of our, like I said, I can route recommendations anonymous, but you won't be able to get any feedback.
Okay. Will you find out that SOP? Yeah. Can you find out that SOP number or that policy number for me?
I mean, it's all under the White House VA hotline. Let's see.
That's because that's kind of, I get the same answer a lot from people at the VA. They say, well, this is how we do things. And then I ask for a policy, and they don't actually have a policy because the way that they're doing things is discriminatory. And I'm like, surely you don't have a policy that says to discriminate against the veteran. And then they don't produce the policy. So I'm like, okay, great. You don't have a discriminatory policy. It's just a discriminatory practice that has been handed down by word of mouth from trainer to trainee.
I mean, we have an SOP that we follow that tells us what information we need to route a case, and everything I'm asking is within the SOP.
Okay.
So
cool. Yeah. Can you just
verify veteran? Yeah, I gotta get the veteran's name, social security number, date of birth, and we also verify phone number and email, so that whoever's contacting you has a way to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And
if you
don't feel comfortable with the full social, I can do the last 4. Sometimes the full social, though, I may need it if it's your first time calling to search for you. But not all the time. But I could do last 4 and address.
Right. So do you have that policy number that you're reading off of?
That's our SOP for verification of identity.
Yeah, it should have like a codification, some kind of numbering system for that SOP.
I think I'm going to transfer you to my supervisor because from what I know, we aren't supposed to just give you numbers. I mean, it's not something you can look up. It's under our knowledge. I don't even think you could even look it up because it's under our specific knowledge.
Well, yeah, it'd be a public record. So, I mean, it would be a FOIA request if we have to submit it that way. But it's
yeah, you could always do a FOIA request.
Right, but I mean, if you're looking at it, it's easy just to give the number.
Okay. I've never been asked to give that number, so if I can put you on a brief hold, I'll ask my supervisor if I'm allowed to give that information.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I've never been asked for a number. So
yeah, no,
we have numbers to look up, to code it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never been asked.
Yeah, I understand.
To give that information,
Sure. Be cautious and careful with it. I understand.
All right. Okay. Brief hold. Thank you.
Yep. She's trying to pull up. Well, she's reading off of an SOP, a standard operating procedure. So some kind of procedural handbook or wherever the procedures are, it has it, and it's listed. Like it sounded like she's looking at the number, but she doesn't want to tell me, right? Just like we have that handbook that we provided her with a number, so then she typed it in and she found it.
She's not wanting to give you the standard operating procedure handbook number.
Right.
not a phone number
Right.
or contact number.
Right.
Just the code that
policy
she's
number
claiming.
That says that they have to get my full name and social and date of birth and phone number and address and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're not even at the person that you need to talk to yet.
No.
And Lightning said that where is it? They will use your ID to send this problem to the VA you use. They just did this to me. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they use it as a punishment.
Right.
They punish you for reaching above their heads.
Right.
Somebody wants a recap. Oh, Charlie dog. Okay, don't spam the chat with recap. Makes me not want to
recap. The VA that deals primarily with disabled veterans from the military, the U.S. military. They are in gross non-compliance and violation of the law, federal law, which is Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It's the Non-Discrimination Act based on disability. It predates the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the ADA. The ADA doesn't cover federal entities. So the VA is a federal entity, but they are under and subject to Section 504. And the VA in the Gulf Coast area that I've transferred my care to, they don't know. They say they don't have Section 504 coordinators at any of their facilities, which is a direct violation of the law. Mrs. Justice found a handbook that came out in 2020 that was supposed to be distributed to all VA employees that requires them to have a primary and a secondary Section 504 coordinator for every facility and to post their information in every facility, make it available to the public so that, and the process on how to contact them and file requests and complaints based on disability. But we've been trying for months to get this information from the Gulf Coast medical VA system, and they have just recently told us that they don't have those positions filled. They don't have anybody doing that. And so now we're trying other VAs, which we called Texas, and they had a problem with connecting me to the right person. And then we got this federal number, like for the national level, that we called, and we're talking to somebody from the White House VA coordination with the White House. Christina, I think she had her name, Christina, one of the two.
Christina.
And she doesn't sound like she's ever heard of Section 504, right? And so we told her the handbook information, the handbook number. She looked it up, and she's like, okay. And so she's trying to figure out who the Section 504 coordinator is at the national level, or at least for her area or for her department. And she doesn't know that information. And she's trying to take down notes to be able to follow up with me later, or to pass it on to somebody to follow up with me later. And she's requiring my personal information, like name, date of birth, social security number, phone number, all this stuff. And she said it was their SOP, which is their standard operating procedures. And I asked for what that policy number is, or what that SOP number is. And she said she wasn't sure if she can give it. So she's checking with the supervisor to see if she can tell me what that policy number is, which it's subject to public records, like to the Freedom of Information Act. But they may make me jump through hoops, just like you guys are familiar with on channels where they can provide you the information, right, with their name and badge number, right, and how much they make, right, or what the call was about, but they won't. They'll say, no, you just go put a records request. Then you put a records request in, and then maybe days, weeks, months later, you might get a redacted version of it.
Hi there, I'm back.
Okay.
All right. Actually, I got some good information when I called, so sorry about the wait, but he did provide. That's why the supervisors are supervisors, because they have the information.
Yeah.
I don't call the supervisors very often, so that's why, like, maybe once in a blue moon. So I'm usually pretty good, but when you hit me with that, I was like, well, I don't know if I can do that, and I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to do things I'm not supposed to. Yeah. But he gave me, and it is actually online. You can pull it up. We don't have to do FOIA requests, no problem. It's on VA.gov, actually, and it explains just VA as a whole, because we do fall under the VA. This is the privacy policy and legal information. It's on VA.gov, so it would be VA.gov / the word privacy, and then a dash, and the word policy, and a /, or if you just go to the search, I found it looking up, I had search privacy, and I was able to find it that way too.
Okay.
But it has all the privacy policies, legal information at the VA, why we I guess, ask for information. Obviously, if I'm routing a case, I want to make sure it's for a real person,
Yeah.
Because they're going to be contacting you. And, we can't, I can do anonymous cases, but those honestly won't go anywhere. They'll be recorded and they will, I think I might be able to do an anonymous recommendation. I think I've done that before. So, I could do that for you.
Does that get anywhere?
Again, I think I can. Like, if you want me to send something to the VA, the secretary of the VA's office.
Yeah.
But then if it's anonymous, there's no way for anyone to get in touch with you.
And does that get anywhere?
To give you an answer. The recommendations, they do go to the whatever office we send them to, and then but a lot of times, if you want an answer, we would route a case and then expect a response, and then once there's a response, then they would close the case.
Right.
Usually recommendations wouldn't always get a response.
Yeah, because I had a friend say that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I'm done.
Oh, I had a friend say that he tried this process, and he said there was like retaliation at his local VA, that they got word that he put in a complaint, and they because he gave his information, that it went back down to his local VA, and they gave him a hard time about it. So that's my hesitancy, is like I don't want I don't want things to be even more difficult, because they're already difficult as they are with all the discrimination and non-compliance with Section 504. Like,
and I especially if, and I understand your hesitation. I understand because you're right. You don't, and honestly, I don't know if your friend, if he called us back after that, because if there is retaliation or something like that because of their call, we can put another case in, and we can, obviously we wouldn't route it back to that facility. We would route it to another direction.
Mm-hmm.
But usually, yes, with the VA healthcare facilities, we do try to work with them, because they're obviously the ones, especially if it's about a doctor's appointments or their phone system, they, are having trouble with that, or consults. They're going to be the ones that put those in. But especially what you're talking about, I'm guessing you've worked with the patient advocate, and still, I could send this to the region, or.
Well, yeah,
I don't know.
That's what I mean. I've already gone through the regional system. Yeah, the director's office, the secretary or the executive assistants at the director's office, Sarah Goodwin, keeps hanging up on me and denying my ADA request or my Section 504 requests. Yeah. So it's systemic and ongoing.
Because I've routed discrimination cases before, and those. Oh, let's see. I've done those before. And again, I don't know. This first time I heard about the 504 myself. But I have a broad knowledge of all VA programs, but obviously there's so much. Yeah, that would fall under risk management. So I don't know if you've put a risk management complaint in. At least that's with our routing, how it works. And those do get looked into. I'm just wondering if they're not getting your complaint to the right person. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, well, they keep telling me at the regional level they don't have anybody designated in that position. And what's that?
Oh, I see that even the regional.
Yeah, even at the regional level. Too. Yeah. And that's why I was calling the national number to find out if there's a national position. I know there's the ORMDI, the Office of, what is it? What's it? I forget the R stands for. Resolution Management. Yeah. And I've submitted something to them via their portal, but I haven't heard anything back from them either.
Let's see, Region 16. Oh, are you still? Oh, I wonder if I'm still connected to that supervisor. He just sent me a message. Oh, yes. I was still connected to him. He's probably had his background music. Oh gosh.
So
You're there, aren't you? I didn't.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, my partner's trying to look up this policy number. She's I think right.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, she's on the VA website trying to find it, but
It's just a privacy policy.
yeah, she's just finding privacy stuff saying that you guys are going to keep my information private, but I don't think she's finding anything that's saying that it requires you guys to take the information in order to process the complaint.
So it's not web privacy. And that they won't sell it.
If I give you like a first name and email address and phone number, is that enough so that you can like follow up and whenever this gets to somebody's office that reviews it?
I mean, yeah, I would need first, last name, date of birth, social, phone number, and we just always review phone number and email because that way they can communicate with you. I mean, because what happens, I got to search, and usually then because there's connection with the databases, so it verifies yes you're a veteran. If for some reason you're not in there, then I can't add a new contact. But usually that doesn't happen very often. Yeah, I mean, I could do a recommendation anonymous recommendation, but then again, you're not going to get any feedback.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's okay. I will go ahead and give you information so that we can pass this on and then get the ball rolling from this direction. I'm trying to have this stuff resolved every way I can, and I keep talking to more and more departments and more people at different levels who have no idea what Section 504 is. So like it just is unraveling and revealing. It's a kind of a systemic lack of training in Section 504.
And that's why I wanted to send it to the Secretary of the VA, because if that's just regionally, I don't know, Mississippi, where's Biloxi? Does Biloxi fall under Region 16?
I'm not sure what region. Yeah, it's the Gulf Coast VA Medical Center.
Biloxi, yeah, Gulf Coast. That doesn't always mean. Let me see, look at for 16. I think it's 16. Gulf Coast. Yep, it's under Region 16. So that covers, majority of Arkansas, Louisiana, some of Mississippi, not the north part, and then part of the panhandle of Florida, and a little bit of Alabama. So that's 3 states, and they're covering all the VAs, which you look under Region 16 or Region 16.
It's a lot.
I'm counting it at least 20 to 30.
Right. So that's a big problem. And I was trying to call one in Texas as well, just to verify to see if they have a Section 504 coordinator. I'm going to continue doing that like the next couple of weeks and find out if any of the regional medical centers are in compliance with Section 504. Because if this is any indication of the VA as a whole, like, it doesn't seem like that handbook was disseminated and anybody's received the training and nobody's following it. So it's extremely troubling, since the primary clientele for the VA medical centers are disabled veterans, and the Section 504 is how to help not discriminate against people with disabilities. So, if your only clientele is people with disabilities, you think it would be bread and butter for everybody to know how to make accommodations and how to process complaints. But it doesn't seem like anybody knows how to do any of that.
I was reading about that, or it might have been a training I did recently about accommodations. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think there is something about that too. I remember seeing something about that, about making accommodations, or like as I'm reading, as I'm helping each veteran, as I'm looking through things, I learn a little bit each time.
Sure.
There is another thing you could do. If you don't want to route this through us, you could. Like I said, I would.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy to route it. Yeah, I'm happy to.
Secretary of the VA.
Yeah, I'm happy to route it through you. I'm trying to approach this from every direction I can.
Right. I won't send it to your VA. That I promise you. I think
Okay.
that's your concern. I won't send it to your VA. I won't send it to the region, especially since you've. I feel comfortable at least sending it. I think to the secretary of the VA. Although.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I can give you the secretary of the VA's address, and you could write to them.
Do you have an email address?
Way. Of course, I have the mailing address. I know that's kind of like, snail mail, but
Well, so that's
I've heard
so yeah.
about it.
Well, that's
send it certified to make sure it's received.
and that's part of the problem. So one of the disabilities that I'm dealing with is visual impairment. So I can't send and receive physical snail mail because I can't read it without an interpreter. And according to Section 504, you guys can't require me to provide my own interpreter for communication. So in order for you guys to require me to put something in physical writing in the mail, you would have to either provide an interpreter at my house or wherever to be able to send and receive mail, or make an accommodation that's more reasonable to be able to send and receive mail, and that would be email, right? So can we do that? Can if I make that an official Section 504 request for a reasonable accommodation for effective communication, that I'd be allowed to send and receive email to that secretary instead of snail mail? But can you process that Section 504 request?
I guess the only way to do that would be to send a case to them through me, because I don't have an email address for the secretary of the VA. All I have is the mailing address.
Okay. Who's your Section 504 coordinator, so we can pass on my request I just made to them, so they can facilitate it and send me the email address that I can then have effective communication via mail.
I could refer you back to the supervisor line. Maybe that's something that I need to do, because I'm trying to help you, and I'm also a veteran, and I'm a disabled veteran as well. So just so you know, I do have a VA disability as well. So I know that part of that aspect. So, but as far as the 504, I can refer you to. We fall under the Veterans Experience Office now. So I mean,
okay.
You could probably
do you know
to them.
Right. Well, I'm making the accommodation request to you since I have you on the phone, and you said that you can help me communicate via mail to the secretary, and I'm telling you that because of disability, I can't use snail mail to make the accommodation to allow me to use email. And so I made that request to you. Now the question is, how do you process that? Who do you send that request to so that it gets approved or denied?
Well, what I can do is route a case to the secretary of the VA through the system.
Right, and
That's how I can accommodate your request.
Well, so that would be something separate, right? That's a different format. Like, you guys have a policy and procedure in place for Section 504 compliance requests and complaints. So at this time, I'm making a request under Section 504, and herein lies the problem. Nobody seems to be trained on how to accept and process a request. And so maybe if you check with the supervisor and say, hey, how do we process the Section 504 request? Because this guy just made it on the phone. Who's our coordinator? How do we make sure that this accommodation is made? And then I'm happy to also submit the, whatever it is that you're going to do through your normal process about the issue at large with, the regional systems not being in compliance. But so we can attack it from both directions. Like your normal system that we were going down the line of with me providing my information, we can absolutely do that avenue. But then I also need to, resolve the issue that I just raised, where I made a Section 504 request, and I need an answer on how you guys are going to make that accommodation for me. Does that make sense? Are you still there?
honestly, I'm kind of lost for words because I'm trying to assist you, and I'm just not sure of how to answer your questions. And I'm usually very well versed in what you're bringing up to me. I mean, this is something that, as far as Secretary of the VA, I don't know. I'm going to put you on a brief hold. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to my supervisor. I'm probably going to transfer you to them because I honestly don't know how to answer your questions and how to help you. And I'm kind of lost for words, and I'm trying my best, but
Yeah.
you are asking these things, and I have a process of how I do things, and this is kind of throwing it outside the process of how our hotline works.
Yeah,
So,
and I get that, and I think really what this is doing is just uncovering that there's a systemic lack of training on Section 504 VA wide, which is what that handbook was supposed to address, and it doesn't seem like that's done its job. So it's not necessarily on you. It's on whoever was in charge of making sure you receive that training, and it's on them. So I appreciate you trying to help.
I mean, I have a process to route these requests, but it's kind of like I've got a barrier right now because I can't route them because I don't have any way to route them because I don't have a name. I'm kind of being, I guess, inhibited in doing my job right now. So it's kind of hard for me to help you if I can't route the case, which usually that's what I do. I route a case and then get it to someone that can get you the answers.
Mm-hmm.
But at this moment, I'm not able to do that because unless you want to give me your name, unless I get some information, I can route cases. I can route cases all day long to whoever I need to. And that is how I do my job. That is how I get answers.
Right. Yeah. And I'll provide that to you, either you or your supervisor. Like, I'm okay providing that personal information for routing the case to address the systemic issue. But, and I think before we address that and do that, I think we need to handle whether or not, the VA White House line is going to make the accommodation that I just requested, a minute ago before we go forward.
Yeah. I mean, the White House VA hotline unfortunately does not have an email address. That's provided by the Secretary of the VA, which is, I guess, way bigger than
right.
Us. I don't know. But I don't know why they don't provide an email address, but I do have an email address to the White House, comment line, and to the White House. I can provide that to you. What else? But unfortunately, I don't know why the Secretary of the VA, and that's something I could send to the Executive Secretary of the VA and provide, why is there not an email address for veterans to contact? I mean, that's something I can do. And I can also send the information forward about the Section 504. Why is this not, you're making all these calls and not finding this available at the facilities that you've talked to. That's how I can get answers.
Right, and I think that'd be through the routing of the thing, and I definitely want to do that still, and I'll provide my information. But is there any supervisor or anybody you can talk to in the interim to find out at this point who we need to talk to with your system, with your VA White House hotline that processes disability requests for accommodation?
And that I can also send a recommendation and a comment to the White House VA hotline to get information. I can do that. But yeah, I don't know. All right. Sorry, you've given me when usually I'm able to work through these issues, but this one I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm okay with I'm okay with whatever. Yeah, I'm okay with every way you want to process it. Like, I think it'd probably be easier if you get somebody on the phone to try to handle it now. But if you don't think it's going to happen because it's getting late in the day, and you'd rather do it through the other system, then that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean that's how we route cases. You call us, we route a case. We get, I don't know any other way to explain how we work. Because I'm intake. you have a question, I'm not necessarily going to have the answers. I try to look through my resources. If it's not there, then I go, you know what? I'm going to get you to someone that can get you that answer.
Right.
So that's usually how our cases and hotline works. And you have a big question, you have a big VA issue, and that's what we address. I unfortunately, White House hotline contact representative do not have, unfortunately, all the answers, but I am more than happy to help you to get you the answers that you're looking for.
Okay.
And that's.
You said you can provide an email for the White House hotline to have correspondence that way as well?
No, unfortunately, no. The way to contact us is to route cases is through the phone calling us.
Okay. So what do we do now?
Okay. Well, I mean, for me to route a case, and like I said, I will read to you everything I write, and then I will tell you where I'm sending it, and then we can take it from there. But I mean, for me to do anything, right now I just have a bunch of notes on a screen, kind of what we've been talking about. And
yeah. So you need my information now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Office of the Secretary of the VA. I think that's the biggest thing because it seems like it's a big issue. So I think that's the right
Yeah, it seems like
you were-
so. Yeah, so the main topic would be systemic non-compliance with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and then you can reference that handbook number if you want, if you still have that.
How did you word that?
Systemic non-compliance.
Non-compliant. That's right. Compliance.
With Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973.
504. Okay. I think I can only put so much on there. Section 504. I'm just going to recopy that and start that as my topic. And that's with, what is that? Which 1970?
It's the section, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973.
Rehabilitation.
Yeah. It's to rehabilitate the government because the government has been used to systemic discrimination based on race, religion, ethnicity, age, sex, handicap is how they worded it in the 70s was handicap, but the ADA now labels it disability. So, but the government has had systemic issues in government entities and government actors of discriminating against people, and so that's why it's the Rehabilitation Act is to rehabilitate the government agencies and government actors to teach them how to not discriminate. Yeah. Which, we're like almost 40 years later and we're still having problems, like systemic problems in the VA.
I'm not going to label my telling with Biloxi because I'm going to just say as a whole, as you've called around other VA facilities.
Yeah.
Secretary, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs email address.
You did?
Joe Black.
Really?
No. Dennis McDonald. Dono. McDonald.
Is it Dennis McDonough is the secretary?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Somebody found us the email address for him.
Oh, did they? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yes, 810 Vermont Avenue. I have the address. I figured he has an email, but
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want us to give his email out. I don't know.
Well, and so that's the thing, right? You should be able to have that. I can understand if they'd rather receive it in snail mail, but you have to make the accommodation for somebody who can't use snail mail, right? Like, so there's several different people with disabilities that would not be able to do that. Somebody with vision loss would be one. Somebody without hands, would be another one, right? If you've lost both hands or ability to physically write, and do things that way, like.
Because some computers,
Yeah, so you can use
some computers can take dictation, right? Yeah.
Exactly. You can dictate. You can people with different kind of complete body disabilities. They can use eye movements, and they can track with eye movements or blowing in a device that helps them use a computer. So you can still send email, and you could even say that they'd be able to print it off. But then having, if they can't move their body, how do they get the piece of paper from the printer and put it in an envelope and then address the envelope? Right, there's a problem there. So doing it all digital is an accommodation for many different people with disabilities, and so the secretary has to make that accommodation. Like,
I've read about this recently, which you're talking. Maybe this is on, I get VA.gov or things from the Veterans Administration through email. I'm wondering if I saw something about that recently.
Yeah.
I've seen something recently about exactly what you're talking about. I don't remember it being termed exactly the 504.
Mm-hmm. With the White House, with the White House VA hotline, you guys have 15 employees or more?
I would say yes.
Right.
We're a 24/7 hotline.
Yeah. So if you have 15, like 15 employees or more, then you guys are required to have a Section 504 coordinator primary and secondary. So then the issue of, when I made that accommodation request for the email, then you'd be like, oh, I don't know. Let me call Janet, who's on primary. Oh, Janet's not here. Let me call, Bob, who's the secondary. And somebody will be able to help you facilitate that. But it sounds like you don't have anybody in that position for the hotline either.
And we may. We just got realigned under a different. So maybe there is. I just never had that question asked and never. Yeah. We'll reach out and find out.
Okay. Well, do you need anything else from me?
It should be. I'm putting that about a coordinator, about over 15 people.
Yeah. Because from what I've been able to tell, like everybody, their reaction is similar to yours. Like, oh, I don't know about this, and they try to figure it out, and they keep running into dead ends. So eventually, with enough time, they come across what's on the va.gov website, and it's the ORDMI, which I mentioned earlier. And so you put in something through the portal, and then maybe they call you back. Like they called me back, and then like a week later, and the lady said that she was going to pass it on to the appropriate departments, and then they would be in contact. When nobody has reached back out to me. So I don't know where it's sitting. I don't know if it's actually being processed. I don't know, if it was just deleted. There's no point of contact, and surely, that's not appropriate. And that's why the Section 504 says specifically for each facility with 15 employees or more, you have to have a primary and secondary. And the reason for that is like anybody that goes to any, government facility for services, like if there's a discrimination issue, having just one office of ORMDMI, like is not going to be able to handle the capacity of phone calls and emails and, discrimination issues nationwide, right? Because there's hundreds or thousands of federal installations that would fall under. So it's facility to facility and service to service. If there's 15 employees or more, each one of those has to be in compliant and have a primary and secondary designated employee to handle Section 504 issues. Does that make sense? Like just because it would get bottlenecked, it would be a disaster having it all go through ORMDMI. Which currently that's how it sounds like it's set up. Since none of the facilities that I've contacted are actually in compliance and they don't have a designated employee.
Unless they're calling them a different, other than Section 504 coordinator. I don't know if they have a different name.
I've heard the term accommodation, reasonable accommodation department. Right? I've heard that term, and I've tried contacting that department for the Gulf Coast VA system, and it's either a busy signal, or an out of service signal, or nobody has been able to respond to that. But even when I was given that information from the patient advocate, they prefaced it with saying that department only handles reasonable accommodations for employees, for VA employees, not for the veterans. So it sounds like the VA has made an attempt to have compliance for the employee side of Section 504, but not for the veteran side or the general public side, because it's not just veteran. Like if a reporter wanted to go do a story at the VA, at any VA, right, and they want to go in and get access and do public records request or just cover some B-roll footage of a lobby or people coming and going and getting services, or how the shot process is at the different facilities, if there's lines, how much of a wait there is, what protocols are in place, whatever story they want to do. Like the general public has a general consent, like implied consent to visit VA facilities to check on what the government is doing, right? It doesn't mean that the general public can go in and to treatment areas, like to restricted areas and stuff, but they can go to the general lobbies and hallways and foyers and anything that's generally open to the public. And if there's discrimination for anybody, it doesn't have to be a veteran or an employee. Like there has to be a process for making sure that disability request is honored and processed, and there's an accommodation made, or processing a complaint. And so far, like we have not found that is in place at any of these facilities. That the only department that they have is to help employees with reasonable accommodations, and not veterans or the general public. And it's kind of like a no-brainer, or like an obvious thing. Maybe it's so obvious, it's so like on the nose or in your face, that maybe that's why it's been overlooked. Like again, the VA medical system primary clientele is for veterans with disabilities, right? Like you have to have a disability rating. You have to go, have to have like if you go to the va.gov, the whole section on disability isn't how to process a disability complaint. That's not there. Like it's on how to do your disability claim for eligibility and for getting a rating and getting benefits, right? So if your primary clientele is people with disabilities and you don't have the system in place to make disability requests and complaints, like that seems like a major flaw, and maybe because it's just so basic, it's gotten overlooked, and they assumed that the patient advocate's going to do it. And the patient advocates that I've talked to, including the supervisor at the regional level, have no idea what Section 504 is. The director's executive assistants have no idea. The EO office had no idea. The PAO had no idea, right? Like it's a systemic issue.
Surrounding it to my one tab says secretary asked to speak to the secretary. Did you need to speak to the secretary or someone in his office or someone that has authority?
Sure. Yeah.
Information.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I know usually that's sometimes it's hard to do that, but
Because what has happened with me specifically is like I've come into areas where there's discrimination. I say, hey, you can't do this because of my disability. You have to make an accommodation. And they go, oh, well, let's get a hold of the patient advocate. And then they get a hold of the patient advocate, and I tell the patient advocate, oh yeah, okay, let's find out what the policy is. And they go and ask the person that's doing the discrimination what the policy is. And they say, well, it's our policy to discriminate, and then the patient advocate comes back and says, well, it's their policy. And I go, well, that can't be, because it's clear discrimination. You have to make an accommodation. Like, where's your Section 504 coordinator? And they go, what? And so like they don't have any training. They told me, like, specifically that the patient advocates told me they don't have any training on Section 504, and they don't know who their coordinator is. Like, and so this has been like a few months of investigating and discovering, well, this is a systemic issue.
I have raised cases about that before, and usually I send it to risk management. That's usually how it goes, and it gets looked into. So, but that's what I would do if you wanted me to write a case about what you experienced. But
yeah, and I'm already working that from the ORMDMI, because that's and the VA.gov. That's the only place that says it can receive a written discrimination complaint. And so I'm still waiting on that. But, that still doesn't seem like it's the best way, because you have thousands, of facilities, right? And so that's why they need to have a local Section 504 coordinator to facilitate those. And then they process it and make the accommodations and make sure that everything's kosher. And then if they have issues, if it's a difficult case, then they reach out to ORMDMI for advice. So it gets funneled, and things get handled at a faster rate at the lower level.
if you'd like, I would like to read to you what I typed.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So veterans say that there is a systemic noncompliance with Section 504 of Rehabilitation Act of 1973, right?
Yes.
At many VA facilities. Okay. And veterans say he does not. Well, I kind of put this because I figured, about the secretary. If you need to talk to the secretary of the VA, I put it. But at least if anything, if someone can address this in his office, I said veterans say he does not need to talk to the secretary of the VA, but he would like to speak to someone at the secretary of the VA's office about this issue. Let's add that. About this issue. And I put VA issued a handbook, and I put the 5975.6 in 2020. Was it 2020 or 2019?
2020. It's when it, yeah, January 2020 is when it's published.
And gave every VA to come into compliance with Section 504, or it is a violation of the law. What was the deadline?
It was 1 year, so it was January 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Violation of law. Much deadline.
Like there was like a few year deadline when the act came out in 1973, and that's clearly passed. Like this handbook is just kind of it's a result of an internal audit that reviewed, and found that the VA was having problems like the VA wide. So it was like another attempt for the VA to fix the systemic non-compliance. And as far as I can tell, it hasn't been implemented and it's not worked.
No, okay, then I put veteran said he feels like he's being discriminated against because of his disability. And that is why. That's the concern.
Yeah, I can't find the proper channel to submit the official complaint in writing because there is nobody in the position to receive the complaint.
Then, he was told they don't have one. Veterans say that facilities over 15 employees should be a coordinator. Veteran has been referred to patient advocate and equal opportunity, PAO, and they were unable to help them. They have no idea what Section 504 is about. Veteran has spoken to several VA facilities, and he's finding that there are no Section 504 coordinators or a way to address the veteran's concerns. And then I put that your research has found that VA has an accommodation coordinator for employees, but not the veterans, but not for the veterans that go to the VA facilities. Veterans done everything to find a VA facility that has a 504 coordinator and is running into roadblocks and realizes that this is a systemic issue. That is why he's bringing it up to the secretary of the VA's office. Veteran requests to be contacted and provided information about this issue.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay.
No, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there any other questions or concerns or anything else that I can help you with this evening?
No, not unless you want to pass on like your personal experience that, that I think you probably agree that if you had the training on Section 504, like from that handbook, then you'd be better prepared to facilitate, my requests, like for the email for the secretary and other requests. Right.
Yeah, I'm going to ask and look into that with our, because I have had people ask about the email before, but I think the way we work is we do more, there's a lot of listening and trying to help and get past everything that the veteran's trying to talk about. So if we can guide, where to send so they send in an email, that might be very difficult to guide where their concern goes, because it may not, sometimes a dialogue, asking questions, trying to get more information. So I think that's why that's the case for that. But I definitely see what you mean about that. So I will ask. I will definitely ask my supervisor and ask about that and say, this is something that was brought up to me. Now that I know about this, I have to ask about it and try to figure out, who is that resource that we have in case I ever get asked again. And then also they need, to provide that to the other agents and then provide resources for us to look that information up.
Yeah. So like if I wanted to record our conversation, is that okay?
As far as I know, it is. I've never been told it's not, and I think I've had pretty much a lot of veterans record our conversation.
Yeah.
It is recorded on our end too.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's one of the things that gets told when you call in. But that's an issue I've had with like the regional director's assistant is because I'm blind. You know, I can't take physical notes while we're having a conversation. So I take audio notes and I'll record. And then, you know, she just hangs up on me or she says, well, I can't talk to you. Or, you know, she'll try to cold transfer me somewhere. And I'm like, well, you know, if you can take notes during this conversation, I have the right to take notes as well. And so like, this is part of the issue. It's like, well, that's clear discrimination. Like, who do I talk to? This is at the top, you know, of a regional VA center. Like, and they don't have a coordinator to help teach this person who's discriminating that what they're doing is discrimination. Like, so where do I go? You know, at this point, like the only place they have left is to call the national lines and start calling anybody at the national level. And then I call you and you're like, I don't know what Section 504 is. Like, well, that didn't start out well. But I thank you for listening and trying to hopefully get this resolved.
Well, I have heard of it. I have heard of it. I think it's probably research of my own. So I have heard of it. It's just never been a question I guess ever had asked. And
yeah. And you sound like kind of young.
I will definitely.
You sound kind of young. So like the, you know, that's from the 70s, and like we're probably more familiar with the 90s. The ADA came out in the 90s. You know, that's more commonly referred to, the Americans with Disabilities Act. But the VA doesn't fall under the ADA because it's a federal entity. So the ADA was built upon the Section 504. Like it kind of adds to, it doesn't take away, you know, from Section 504. So.
Actually, looking at your date of birth, I'm a couple years older than you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, not by much, but
yeah.
Years. But yeah. I definitely don't think of myself as being old, so I'm glad you said that. So you sound young, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I was just saying for reference that you and I probably didn't grow up hearing, you know, even in the military, didn't hear anything about Section 504, but we've probably heard the ADA or the Americans with Disabilities Act like thrown around more often than Section 504 just because of, you know, when we were born.
That's true. That is true. All right. Well, I do thank you for your call today. I mean, I learned from every veteran that I talked to, and I will bring this up to my supervisor. I will draft an email actually after we get off the phone. I'll send them an email and say, hey, are y'all aware of this?
Yeah.
Something.
Well, feel free to email me if you get a response from them. Like, feel free to email me and keep me in the loop. Like, if you figure out that you guys have a coordinator or you have a system in place, you know, for the VA White House hotline.
Well, unfortunately, I guess I could put a case in for them to contact you about that. That's the only way you'll get contacted. If I did a specific case for that, for them to contact you. Yeah. I guess I could do that. Okay, I'll do that.
All right.
I don't need to keep you on the phone longer. Right. I can do that without. It'll be a very brief. You know, veteran asked for Section 504 coordinator. You know, and I can do that. And you're right. That way it's official, and then you'll get a response. Because if I just email my supervisor, I can't email you back.
Right. I have to like call up and ask for you by name or like your extension or anything like that. Like, yeah.
And even that's hard because you get the next available agent, and if we are not working, that's the other thing because we're 24/7. So
right.
It might be hard to get the same person twice. It happens sometimes. Just depends.
All right. Well, thanks for.
I guess I will put it in. I have to give an answer about the Section 504. And that way, that's documented, and then they have to do something about it. Okay, that's what I'll do.
All right. And
when I route the case to you, we'll get an email confirmation. I know that probably would be better as far as the case numbers.
Yes, please.
Okay. I will do that as soon as I route that. You'll get that. And I think that's everything. Any other questions or concerns or anything else I can help you with this evening?
No, thanks for taking the call and trying to work it out.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for calling the White House VA hotline. And I just thought of something. I think you got transferred to us. Do you have a direct number?
No. What is that?
Okay. Our number is 855-948-2311.
All right. Thanks, Christina.
Okay, thank you so much. And we're here 24/7 if you need a call about any other VA-related issues. We'll be more than happy to help you with that.
Yeah, I may call back. Yeah, I may call back with the issue I have with the crisis line, the veteran crisis line being a duty to report, because I checked with them and they say they have a duty to report if a veteran says that they're in imminent danger or thinking about hurting themselves or others, that they have to contact 911, and that could just make things worse, sending cops to a situation where cops don't always have the best judgment, and they end up killing somebody, and because they're not trained with mental health training. So that's another issue for another day that I'll probably call and address with you guys. But
okay, yeah, I need to definitely do that. We can cover that because that falls under veterans crisis line, falls under the VA, so we can assist you with that.
Cool.
But all right, well, thank you for calling the White House VA hotline. Thank you for your service, and you have a wonderful evening.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Whew. That was like an hour-long conversation.
An hour and 15 minutes. But you talked to a person and you weren't in the...
Weren't being passed around?
On the robot.
What time is it? Is it still time?
It's so late. It's 4:50
4:50?
Central.
Should we try Texas again?
Wait, what? The crisis line has been temporarily disconnected?
Yay. I think that's Texas. Update me on what's going on in the chat.
People, they were admiring your beard at one point.
Yeah.
That said that lady was hitting on you.
Welcome to the San Antonio VA Medical
But no,
Center.
serious things.
If you were having a...
One moment, please.
We have an email with some records request fulfillments from the VA that a guy got. It took him like 4 months to get.
Good afternoon, Emergency Hospital. I'll put a 12.
Hey, can I get the director, please?
Everything's closed right now, so everything's shut down at 4 o'clock.
Oh, wow. Is that pretty standard, the VA shutting down at 4 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it would be open till 5.
No, they're only from 8 to 4.
What can you get me the director's name and number that I can call tomorrow?
The number's going to be 210-949.
210-949?
949-3822.
3822?
Yes. And it's going to be, give me one moment. I know the last name is Samuels, but we don't always use the first name. Give me 1 second. For Sandals, Sandles.
For Sandals, okay. And do you happen to know the Section 504 coordinator? Who that is and the phone number? Okay, it may be under disability coordinator.
For disability type of claims and things like that?
No, for making a reasonable accommodation request or a disability discrimination complaint.
For an employee?
No, for a veteran.
Because we do have a number for reasonable accommodations, but it's for employees.
Yeah.
And as far as for veterans, I mean, that would probably be the regional offices and things like that.
Yeah. Do you have that number at all?
Yes, it's 1-800. 827-1000.
1-800. What was the first three?
827.
1000. And that's just the regional operator?
That's the regional for all the VA.
And that's for Southern Texas or?
Yes, for all of South Texas, and they're located in Houston.
In Houston. Ah, okay. That's what I thought I was calling that number. This is just the Audie Murphy then, right? San Antonio?
Right. Yes, exactly.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Outgoing call 344-698-2311.
Ooh.
So 8 to 4. Awfully short on those business hours.
All right. So this is a
dark.
little snapshot. Everybody
Sorry.
keeps asking, like, where's blind justice? This is a bit of what blind justice does, like, day to day, trying to hunt down how to make disability requests and complaints, because it's systemically screwed up, as you guys can tell just from sitting and listening to the phone calls. Like,
3
people,
hours.
yeah, 3 hours that there's been.
Yeah.
All right. So there you go. A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Oh, great.
And this is just the VA side of things, like me just trying to get medical care
So I don't.
started, like from transferring from North Carolina, and then you just keep running into problems. So this is just an aspect of life, is your medical care. Then we've been working on transitioning and moving, and the pending court cases in North Carolina that I've been going back and forth in North Carolina for. So those 2 cases we have coming up November 8th and November 9th. So just a few weeks from now, and we'll keep you guys up to date on what's going on.
So someone said Peanuts over on her channel, calling VAs, telling them you're prank calling VAs. But I don't understand what's happening there, because if we're trying to get help for disabled veterans and trying to make it easier for the people who even answer the phone to know where to direct a disabled veteran, like, what's the problem?
What's the prank?
What does the, like, even if some random whoever who has no affiliation with the VA started calling the VA and asking, how does a disabled veteran get in contact with the 504 coordinator? Like, good.
Right.
Do that. Like, it should be. So this is what it should be. It should be, oh yeah, I have their number right here. Let me give you that number. Done. And it's a 1.5-minute phone call. And then we move on. Like, it should not be a 3-hour process to simply put in. It's not even the right place. Like, we didn't even put in the complaint in the right place. Like,
right. I haven't even lodged the complaint in the right place yet, because they keep
Thank you.
hiding who the right person is to lodge the complaint with. Yeah.
Right.
What's that?
Yes. Noli said no, she ain't. I'm like, okay, good.
Oh, somebody's just lying.
Well, who knows? But somebody in the chat earlier was claiming that they were doing that. So whether or not the specific person was, I don't really care specifically. I just wanted to clarify that I just truly don't understand how that would even be construed as a prank.
Yeah. No, it's the public trying to make sure that the government is following the rehabilitation. Like, that's what I was trying to tell the lady on the White House VA hotline. Like, it's Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Like, why is it called rehabilitation? Because the government entities need to be rehabbed. They need rehabilitation from systemic discrimination. Like, they are used to discriminating against people because of all these different issues, whether it be race, color, religion, ethnicity, sex, age, handicap is what it was called in 1973, and the ADA calls it disability. So, like, they needed rehabilitation. They still need rehabilitation because they're still systemically discriminating. Right? As evidenced by kidnapping a guy trying to go to court, throwing him in prison, like torturing him, right? As evidenced by any number of the videos on our channel where, they attacked me in the health department for asking questions. Yeah. So they need rehabilitation on how to not discriminate against people that have differences, right? So, any other comments, questions before we log off? Because I'm about ready to say peace.
Oh yeah, there's been a few people popping on and off, like sharing their frustrations with the VA and different runarounds. Like somebody just said, like, their family members have been running against this dead end wall over and over again, like just beating their heads against the wall, trying to get care that they need from a system that isn't interested in caring for them.
Right.
Like, and so the system is getting gobs and gobs of money to do what it's doing, and claiming that it's doing something totally different, right? It's claiming that it's helping people and that it's, supplying all these things. Now, some people are getting help, sure, maybe, but lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of others are not.
Yeah.
And they're just getting drugged and they're getting addicted to drugs. And then somebody mentioned earlier in the chat that they had him on all these their family member, all these painkillers and all these drugs for 18 years and all of a sudden tried to cut him off cold turkey. And it just goes on and on and on. Like we hear stories of veterans going and killing themselves in the VA parking lot after going inside and being refused over and over and over again. And this has got to stop. And who's speaking out? I mean, I'm sure there are some, but they get silenced, or again, they try to go down these channels and they don't say the right words. And so they don't get the help that they need.
Right.
Like when we were trying to get an appointment, we said, next available appointment. We want to get seen as soon as possible. And so they put him in the system
6 or 8 weeks
out. And we're like, what? Well, then finally we talked to somebody else. We're like, patient advocate said, you have to tell them that you want to be seen in, and then tell them the specific time frame that you want to be seen in.
Less than 2 weeks.
You have to say less than 2 weeks. And if they don't have that, then they have to put you into the community care program, which we know about community care, but we didn't know there were magic words. Like,
right.
I didn't know that you were supposed to say less than 2 weeks. I want to be seen as soon as possible, less than 2 weeks. Like, not because apparently as soon as possible doesn't mean
whenever there's something available somewhere down the future.
Possible.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still broke, like whatever. So apparently if you don't tell them that, give them a time limit, less than 2 weeks,
right,
they're going to give you the as soon as possible in that clinic.
Right. Well, it's just like we just heard with that operator out of San Antonio, the VA in San Antonio, where I said, you know who the Section 504 coordinator is? And she's like, what? I'm like, okay, what about, you may know it as disability coordinator. No, still nothing. You mean like disability claims? See, we started the video with explaining when you talk about disability, you have to have a disability to be working with the VA and get health care, right? Because you have to have a filed claim, disability claim, and disability rating. And like, no, not that. Like, then I use the magic words that they have, because they have a department for reasonable accommodations, which is under Section 504. You have to give a reasonable accommodation. And she said, just like the other regional VA said, that they have it for employees, but not for the veteran. And if your whole clientele is disabled veterans, is people with disabilities, then how do you not have a reasonable accommodation department that makes reasonable accommodations for them? Why? Well, it's because it's veterans. So the veterans are used to the big green weenie from Uncle Sam, like getting screwed all the time from Uncle Sam. And so they're used to being told what to do. You go to the VA and they tell you no, and they say, this is how we do it. This is policy, right? And so most veterans are institutionalized and trained to just not question authority, and to not say, well, what is that? What policy is that?
Right.
What authority are you claiming to say this is the rules? Like, right. And actually that's against the law. Here's the actual law and policy you're supposed to be following. Right. But most veterans are just wired to, bend over and take it because somebody said this is, they checked with the authority or the doctor or the admin or the chief medical officer or whoever. Like, they cite some source without actually having a policy number that says this is the actual policy. Even still, when we got that, she couldn't find the policy that they're referencing saying that you have to give your information to process the thing.
Yeah, I looked up what she gave us, the VA privacy page, and I put it on the screen for a minute and scrolled through, and I didn't see what she was saying, but it's this hearsay thing, like, oh yeah, and then it just gets used, right? It's and then you have the patient advocates, quote finger, and so they send the problem veterans to the patient advocates, and the patient advocates appease them.
They don't advocate for the patient.
No. They advocate for the VA to the patient. Yeah. They're like, oh, no. Okay, well, the doctor is this, and then this is this. And so they get that patient back in line, and so they can send them back out.
Yeah. If you guys are interested, we can post a video with like all these different phone calls that I made prior to this live and showing, the steps that we went through talking to these different people. I even had a conversation with somebody from the ethics board or ethics committee or something. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was the ethics committee.
Yeah. And it was like a chaplain and then somebody else like on the ethics committee. And I started asking them questions like, what their positions were, if they're paid by the VA, if they see a conflict of interest, being on the ethics board to review whether or not they're acting ethically, if they're being paid by the same entity, if that's a conflict of interest, and like, oh no, it's not, like, we can be paid. We investigate ourselves and found no wrongdoing. Like,
and the big part of the problem is a lot of people are scared to say yes or no, right? It's like, okay, I don't even need you to say yes, it's a conflict of interest.
Right.
I would like to hear you say, okay,
Possibly.
I could see how this could be a conflict of interest.
Right.
Like, that's it. Just acknowledge that it's a possibility.
Right.
If you're really going to be sitting there trying to talk ethics.
Right.
Like, otherwise, what are we even doing?
So yeah, that was a joke. So that might be an interesting one for you guys to listen to. So like, we don't know. We're still busy with like prepping for court and stuff.
Yeah.
And it just it kind of got to a point with getting nowhere with the VA. We wanted to share with you guys just a glimpse in what we've been doing and how it's time consuming and can be very disheartening to find out that an entity that is solely set up for helping people with disabilities, like with medical care and compensation, like that they don't know the law on non-discrimination based on disability, and they're not following the law, right? So if that is happening, and it's a federal agency, right, then of course it's happening at every, and this is not an exaggeration, at every government entity, every local government, every regional government, every state government, every federal government entity has systemic disability discrimination happening. And you just have to know, the questions to ask to find it, right? You can make this a part of your audits, make this a part of your investigation. Go in and look for the bulletin boards. Where is the Section 504 or ADA complaint and request procedures, and who are the designated employees?
Those are required to be visibly posted.
Yes. And if they're not, that's a violation of the law, right? Finding out that process, like you can do a records request for that process, and they're supposed to give it. You can go instead of asking for a copy, go and inspect the record of their disability complaint process, and they're supposed to provide it, right?
Right. Another thing about inspect the record is they have to let you actually inspect the actual record where it's housed. Is that in all the states?
Most states. It's like that. At least all the states that I've checked. Like, I haven't found one where it's not like that. They're supposed to give you access to where the record is kept. If it's kept in their computer system, then they're supposed to give you access to one of their computer systems that has the record pulled up. If it's just on the website, like on their government website, then they allow you access to that, right? If you don't have access to a computer, right, then they're supposed to make an accommodation to give you access so you can pull up that record. So yeah, it's an easy thing you can incorporate into your investigations into government compliance and transparency. And not only that, it's something that you can sue for. It's something that you can bring them to court, like bring to the Department of Justice to force them into compliance. And there's even finder's fees for the whistleblower process and that. So yeah, it's completely systemic, and we need help fixing it. Well, I don't think we're going to be able to fix it, but you might be able to make a difference, in a short term for whoever's working there.
Yeah.
And maybe help the next person with a disability that comes after you. But eventually it's going to revert back to discrimination just because it's part of the system.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But that little magic words about how to get out into the community care for things, like just like little pieces that we find out along the way that we can share that can help the next person not have to wait 8 weeks and then find out, oh wait, the doctor just canceled my appointment and now I have to wait 6 more weeks.
Yeah.
And on and on and on and on and on, when you could just get turned out into the private sector or community care, whatever you call it. Like, I think a lot of people would be better off if they got private sector instead of the VA. But yeah. And if we can arm all of the people who answer the phones with the correct phone numbers to get to places, that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right.
Good. Any last comments?
The whole system needs help. The machine is broke. Indeed, Ken Dalton.
Yeah.
It's broke.
All
That's
right.
broke.
Good.
Yes. Are you two out of North Carolina? Yes, we are out of North Carolina. And that is all.
Yep.
We'll
Peace.
catch you later.
Love you guys. As always, take a press of Bear.